Alrighty, everybody. Welcome on into what I would consider to be not a good day. I would consider this not a good day. I would consider this a very bad day. How is everyone doing? Wow. I want you to know a couple things here. One, the anti-Graham Platner people just get to gloat. You know, like there's really no way, like trying to prevent people from trying to gloat about I knew Graham Platner was bad. That's just insane. They get to gloat. You know what I mean? Like they get to gloat. It is what it is. What I would say is that if you're a fair-minded person, you would understand that this accusation is different in kind to everything else that's come before. You know, general things of like he did something in Iraq that's not specific versus, oh, this person says he raped her. That is an insane direct accusation of a crime under someone's name. Like, it doesn't get any more credible than that. And what I said yesterday is the statute of limitations for rape is 20 years in Maine. Like, this accusation is on a whole nother level, which is why everyone is abandoning him, who's a reasonable human being. That's not, but if you were like, I don't trust this guy, I think he's too risky, you know, I know alcoholics. I know people with PTSD. You know, I know how volatile the stories around him are sending up red flags like AOC did. That's completely reasonable. I'm not even mad at people for that. I think that, unfortunately, this is life. I've always said this, is that sometimes you're going to give people a second chance and they're going to be a piece of shit. Sometimes you think somebody is reformed and they're not. You know, there is no way to prevent this type of shit from happening other than to reckon with it after it occurs. And you guys remember the Chris Rabb interview where I defended Chris Rabb? Remember when I saw where Chris Rabb was talking about that? I defended Chris Rabb and said there's nothing Chris Rabb said that was wrong at all. Ultimately, though, I think that the purpose of politics is to achieve your political outcome. Graham Platner does not help us achieve that political outcome, period. He's not going to win. He's not going to win against Susan Collins with a rape fucking accusation. Okay. So he's got to go. And we need to pick somebody else who's not a disgusting piece of shit, because the purpose of politics is to get our policies in power. Right. And this is the thing that's even more important to me. Every single time this cycle, I have ignored the fact that somebody's not DSA. It was a mistake. Whether it was Shoycott, whether it was Graham Platner, whether it was Tom Stein. And by the way, I didn't full-throatedly endorse these people. I said that we need to have a reckoning with where politics is today and make options available when somebody is good on Palestine or whatever. I was not a Steyerhead. I was not a Shoycott stan. But that is the main lesson. When somebody doesn't come from DSA, when somebody isn't vetted through our socialist organizations, when they're just some progressive guy or gal, that's a red flag, you know, like it is. And it opens us up to risk. And like, look at this, man. If you look at this chart, Shoycott, Kat Abou-Ghazaleh, no national progressive figures, no local DSA. The people that we are happiest with are all DSA people. Chris Rabb, Claire Valdez, Maylot, Daria Lisa. Like, this is the reality. It is. And notice something else. Winning by a lot. I think for me, in general, we are living in a situation where politics is a disgusting, vile game. It is. We're talking about power, and people play for keeps. And it's why you can't just have rando fucks go and recruit people who have no process. You know, like that's the problem. You know, like Abdul is literally the only person that is not in DSA that I'm excited about. And I've been trying to be someone who only supports DSA candidates. And every time I don't support a DSA candidate, it's heavily regretted. Do I think it's legit? There's no accusation that could be more legit than this, right? Like there is no, and especially in the context of everything else, right? He lied to us. You understand that? That's the additional layer. There could be an allegation more legit than this. And he also lied to us. He said there was nothing else. At this point, he's a rapist and a fucking pathological liar. He's a fucking monster. He should not be in position of power, period. Everything up to this point was bad enough, but it was apparent that the people of Maine were willing to overlook it, and he was a anti-Zionist politician, and we made the critical decision to support him for that reason. But he is not reliable. If he's lying about rape, you think we could trust him on a political issue? Get the fuck out of here. Innocent until proven guilty is for criminal offenses, not going into power. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, and the other thing is, he'll lose. He'll lose to Susan Collins, which is what this is all about. Get him the fuck out so we can get someone in there that can actually stop fascism and imperialism. That's what it's all about. Are we doomed to the Mills Mafia? No. That's also the part of this. The reason why we need to get rid of Platner is so we could try to put someone in there as pro-Palestine. So we could, people like Platner, not because of who he is, but because of his viewpoints and the way they were communicated. That's it. So we need to replace it with someone who holds better viewpoints, but isn't a scumbag. It's very straightforward. I don't think, like, I think people are not comprehending that there is no hope for Graham Platner. Like, he's toast, he's finished, he's gone, and the sooner the better. Like, it is what it is. This isn't about being a veteran. This isn't about anything like that. This is about a credible accusation of rape that he lied about and said there was nothing else that was going to happen. He knew that he abused women. He knew that he got drunk and showed up at people's houses. Let's completely honest. He knew about this shit. Like, there's nothing more to say. He lied to everybody, and he made all of us who trusted him look like a fucking idiot. And all of us who did are gonna have to eat shit for a while over it. That's just the way it is. And all the red flags are all the more obvious in hindsight. One of the things that we need to learn from this is, when you see a red flag, we need to develop an alternative. That's what, like, if we have a DSA process and we're looking to run someone for office and we have a dozen cadre candidates and we start going through their backgrounds and we find some red flags in someone's background, we say, I'm sorry, we're going to go with a different choice. But because we didn't have that, because we left this seat open to whoever was ambitious enough to run, a dipshit did it. And he threw shit on our movement by being associated with them. That's the lesson, is DSA has to be more ambitious and not just, and that's that. People allowed themselves to be lied to because they're desperate. Anyone with the lick of common sense would have never trusted a mercenary from the State Department. I mean, obviously. I mean, honestly, there's no way for me to disagree with that. Like, it is what it is. Ultimately, we were making a decision to critically support someone to stop Zionism. That's it. But now he's not going to stop Zionism, and he's a complete liar. He's shameless. And, like, that's the other thing. Like, I think Matt Crispin is hitting it out of the park. I think Matt Crispin is, he's correct. We interrupt your smugness orgy to remind that Janet Mills, a stable, reliable, conventional, impeccable pedigree, college-educated, got stomped 72% in the primaries to unstable, unvetted. That's your brand. It fucking sucks dick. I mean, that's true. Matt Crispin with the boom, but here's the thing. Like, it doesn't matter if Graham Platner stopped her and then loses to Susan Collins because he's a rapist. Like I'm glad that this came out now. Listen, I'm not here to question any, victim. I wish this had come out much earlier, so we could have known because if you look back at the New York Times article, there is, oh, he made me uncomfortable and I had you know what I mean? Like, it's very different than this. It's very, very different than this. Like, this is as bad as it gets. Do I think it was intentionally held? No, I think when a woman is sexually assaulted and she comes forward, the very first thing that's going to happen is she's going to be questioned. She's going to be attacked. Now this woman is going to have, it's going to be a national topic of discussion. Of course you're going to be afraid, especially, and this is the sad part, I read that she didn't want to come forward because she believed in the movement, the ideas, the cause. And it made me ashamed that that's how women have to live in this fucking country, in this world, where they see that Graham Platner had some empathetic policies that she thought would help people. And so she decided she was going to, hide this. That's not okay. That shows you just how misogynistic our society fucking is. There must have been some insiders that knew. Politico says that off the record, she communicated to New York Times that she was assaulted back in the spring. Yeah, that's what's insane about this article. That's what's insane about this article. Spending time with him could be exhilarated. They also recounted patterns of heavy drinking and womanizing. I mean, honestly, like the New York Times, like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like, what the fuck was this article? This was absolutely terrible. Did you see this video of Jackson Hinkle in Iran? He's so obviously a fucking Russian fucking plant. That's so funny. God, Russian intelligence service loves Jackson Hinkeldink. It's so funny. Not to defend the New York Times, but she said she did not want to disclose the rape allegation at the time to them. Yeah, I mean, someone said she did. You know, it's hard to say, but ultimately, it doesn't. This is our desire to want to support good people. And here's the thing: we have to move quickly to get rid of Graham Platner. And honestly, it's probably going to be a blessing that he's gone. Like, obviously, he's an unreliable, pathological liar whose very association with our movement has put a lot of shit on it. And a lot of the dumbest people on the planet have been proven right because we trusted a guy who was obviously untrustworthy. That's just reality. That makes us look like pieces of shit because we defended a guy who was obviously a kind of a scumbag. And yet, you know, it is what it is. Will there be another primary? Will the DNC get to pick whatever corporate loser? They're coming up with a process. I have a feeling that I don't think all hope is lost. My candidate is probably Troy Jackson. That is the person who's, you know, obviously the left candidate looking to be Troy Jackson. Has there been major news coverage of Platner? Yeah. And like, I think the thing that's really shocking and is how can he believe that this is not going to come? Like, the narcissism of this guy is absolutely fucking insane. Man aside, what are the other options for Dems to take the Senate? I mean, it's obviously the top one, and he's going to drop. He's going to drop. His entire campaign staff are going to quit. Like, he's not going to have any money. The Democratic Party's going to cut him off. He's done. He's done. He's going to drop out. I bet when he saw the New York Times article and what was said, Platner thought he was home free. Yes. Yes, he did. And not only that, so did everybody else. Like, so that's why a bunch of Democrats came out and endorsed him. I think one of the things that I do want to communicate is the idea that, oh man, well, opposition research is so bad. Why didn't they catch this? They would never have caught this in a million years. This required extraordinary scrutiny to come out. Maybe in the future, people will spend money to interview every single one of your exes. That was not typical of a Senate campaign. Presidential campaign, yes. Senate campaign, no. For a campaign to function, it requires, it's like your lawyer, right? You know, or your doctor. If you don't say to them, yeah, you know, if you don't tell the truth to your lawyer, then your defense is going to fucking fail. But if you're absolutely massively guilty, they're not going to let you run for Senate. Did you see PV slandering Troy Jackson? They are scum. Yes, they're dumb as fuck. The Progressive Victory Organization account will almost certainly delete this thread. Here are screenshots of them live tweeting rumors and Discord screenshots about Troy Jackson as cosplay is vetting him as a Senate candidate. Yeah, apparently he dropped or tossed a water bottle on the ground during a heated argument, and Progressive Victory tried to say he assaulted a female colleague, but people were like, no, dude, there was a water bottle thrown on the ground. It was not thrown at anyone. Like, what are you saying? But Progressive Victory was so desperate to, I guess, change the subject off of Graham Platner for some reason. I think that this instance is going to tell you people's character, right? Which is, one, if you had bad vibes, like, don't underestimate vibes. It's remarkably frustrating that people like Platner are scum, but the Republican Party gives people like him a complete pass. So many of their candidates have so many worse accusations, but we have eggs on our face because we're better than them. What do you want me to say? What, we're gonna have rapists because the Republicans have rapists? No. And I gotta tell you, you know what I want to do to the Republican Party? You think I want to let those guys get off? No. But if we're going to go after them, we need power. And Graham Platner hurts our ability to get it. That's it. And it's good that a scandal this bad came out so he could get fucking pushed out of the race, and hopefully we could replace him with someone better than him. Maybe a little bit more boring. The only reason we had Graham Platner is nobody else ran. It's not like we chose him of 5 different progressives and we all rallied around him. It's nobody else ran, and we didn't want a Zionist. It's not that straightforward. It's not some deep moral failing here. It is the people of Maine wanted someone who was progressive and anti-Zionist over an establishment Zionist puppet. Our fault was not running more people that are fucking better. So when the first scandals came out, we could have picked them instead of him. That's the reality. He sucks. Nazi Blackwater Burke can murder brown-bodied overseas as long as he doesn't touch an American. No, that's not true. I would have, if you had some like evidence of him committing crimes other than like your imagination, then I would have not supported him. If there was any articulated accusation of a war crime committed by Grant Platner outside of being in the military, then I wouldn't have supported him either. Like, what the fuck are you saying? Come the fuck on. Reddit posts, cringe Reddit posts are different than articulated rapes. Like, what are you saying? Like, your imagination is different than a woman making a articulated, contemporaneously confirmed, specific, on the record, factual rape allegation. Like, what are you even saying? The fuck are you saying? But, and I'll say this to the people that were right. You guys were right for very good reasons. You understand that war veterans with alcoholism and PTSD are probably not the most reliable people, because guess what? PTSD and alcoholism make you unreliable. That's part of the like condition. And all of us want a redemption arc. We wanted that redemption arc. We believed in that redemption arc because our politics requires belief in redemption. Because if I judge the world by socialist values, no one is on that level. We are about evolving to the next level. Like, obviously, nobody's going to live up to our standards now. Like, what the fuck are we saying? So there was definitely, and that was, by the way, the criticism that Chris Rabb made. The criticism that Chris Rabb made is, you're willing to do this redemption arc for a white man. You wouldn't be willing to do a redemption arc if he was a black man. And he was fucking right. He was completely fucking right, which is what I said at the time, by the way. I wish we had made a video about it. And here's the thing. Just because Grant Platner is a piece of shit doesn't mean no one can be redeemed. That is the worst thing that you could take away from this is never believe in redemption because one guy was a liar. Like, that's insane. Anybody who is, if you ever worked at like a rehab clinic, or you ever worked at a homeless shelter, or you ever worked at a place where people's behavior was at least in some part related to their condition, whether it was addiction, whether it was other considerations, you understand that people are going to have setbacks. Like, that is what it is. But Graham Platner is not one of those people. And I don't want those people to be tarred with Graham Platner. Graham Platner is a predator, and it's unambiguous. It's not based on vibes. It's not based on, oh, he's a white man. He is a predator. It is that, I mean, and that evidence was not available, and now it is. The people that were like, fuck that guy's vibes are rancid, they were right. His vibes are rancid. All of us have a sociopath detector. We have evolved with the ability to pick up vibes, right? But we also can't convict someone off of vibes. We need to have actual articulated evidence and proof. So the people that were like, fuck his vibes are rancid, they were picking up on something real, but we didn't have the evidence and the accusation and the truth. So they trusted their vibes and they were right. It is what it is. How is Troy Jackson on Israel? I think he's good on Israel, isn't he? He got endorsed by DSA, so I can't assume they would if he was really bad on it. And here's the thing. And my reaction in general is there is no like coming back from this. Graham Platner needs to honestly be prosecuted. Based on what I heard, he should go to prison. I'm not kidding. And this isn't about it being a white American woman. It's about it being clear, articulated, credible. If you have clear, articulated, credible evidence of him murdering civilians or whatever, I'd want him to be prosecuted for that too. That was the problem with the other accusations, so-called, that ultras were making against him. They were based off of imagination and assumptions, which may be true, but they didn't have any articulated evidence to say, on this date, in this town, he did this offense. We have that. That's a whole nother level. He had a history. The history was spoke about by people like FD and others in the space, and he did say those people were wreckers, which now seems laughable if we're being real. I would say that again, as I've been saying since John Fetterman, you're going to have people that betray you in politics. There is no way to not have that happen. People are going to break your trust. People are going to lie to you. People are going to be different than who they present themselves to be. When you are contending for power as an insurgency, that we are, you're going to have people betray you. And it's completely natural to be traumatized and never want to take a risk again. But that means that the status quo wins by default. It is what it is. Like, this is the reality of how I feel about it. Is like the Graham Platner shit, people who were put off by him were right. But we still have to have an articulated method of separating bad vibes or bad background from this guy is actually 100% confirmed to be a predator. And the lesson to learn from this is not to just have one guy running so that we have no choice. That's why we're in this position, because nobody else ran, or the DSA did not have a candidate. Why didn't Maine DSA have a Senate candidate? Why didn't DSA in California have a gubernatorial candidate? Why were we forced to pick between Tom Steyer, a billionaire, non-progressive, because our organizations are not mature enough and big enough to actually compete for power? That's the problem. And so we were left with this progressive guy by default. FD's vibe check was that he was a liar. He lied. FD was correct. That is absolutely true. I'm not, by the way, I think there's a difference between somebody like Chris Rabb and FD Signifier and like other people who are just trying to claim like they saw this coming. No, their problem with him was he was a liar and he was unreliable and he was going to burn us. And they were correct. The only problem with that entire, like, our entitled criticism of Platner was it was always critical support. It was always critical support. It was always, I'm supporting him because I'm trying to stop Israel. Israel hates the guy because he has anti-Israel politics. It was always critical support. And now he's hurting our politics. Now he objectively should be pushed out of the race so we can get somebody else who's way better. It all should have stopped when we learned he worked for Blackwater, supporting the State Department. Everything after that, wishful thinking. But I mean, the Blackwater shit is definitely bad. Okay, like, there's no doubt about that. But, and I think, listen, we definitely ignored red flags. Every time you get burned, it doesn't usually come completely out of nowhere. You're forced into this situation. There's a lot of people endorsing Bernie for endorsing him, saying it's a pattern of behavior. Guys, everyone who endorses anyone is going to have some stinkers in there. It's just, that's just the way it goes. The way to treat people is how they react after the evidence comes out. Whether they try to bury it. The cope that leftists are going through right now is because we wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt. It just makes me sick. I have faith, though, that we all immediately disowned him the moment it came out. Exactly. So is Fifield still an operative? Fifield is an operative, but it's very clear that Platner still abused her. Like, the evidence is more credible, right? Like, that's the other thing. The nature of an accusation, when there's more than one woman who's making credible allegations, even if individual women have, there's no such thing as a perfect victim. I don't know why people are acting like the sky is falling. Well, because it's ego, right? Like, people want to use this to damage the credibility of pro-Zionist organizing and electoral leftism, right? Everybody's pushing their narrative that exists prior to whatever this is. This isn't about them wanting justice for the victim. This is a way of trying to damage the anti-Zionist electoral movement in America. And people are trying to take advantage of it. They try to do damage to the credibility of those people that tried to advance an anti-Zionist progressive in a swing district, right? That's what it's not about getting justice for this woman. Obviously. Let's be real. This will be hugely damaging to the left. Not really. I mean, as long as we throw him out and we get somebody else in there and they win, this will be an interesting footnote. This is what happens when you run a non-DSA progressive. That is the lesson. The lesson of John Fetterman and Graham Platner is DSA did not endorse John Fetterman. DSA did not endorse Graham Platner. DSA undefeated. Like, that's really what happened. The ultra critique of him is anti-rehabilitation. Okay, a bunch of things. First, let's acknowledge some things that we were loath to acknowledge. I think the argument of he was an anti-war, like, I think the thing about him that makes a lot of things shine different in hindsight is, for example, the fact that he was anti-war and then went into the military and then went into the military he went into 4 tours when he was already anti-war or anti the war prior to the first term. It is kind of a little bit contradictory. I'm surprised to see you say we could still win. Do you think it's likely to both find a good candidate and get that much support in time? Guys, it's July. It's fucking July. And there's people like Troy Jackson who are running for governor who already have good name recognition because they just ran a good primary campaign for governor. There's plenty of people that have good name recognition that are relatively progressive who could take it. And then there's many, many months to communicate. The main Dem party isn't going to pick the leftists. Come on. I think they're actually going to try to do something. They're going to try to do some sort of caucus or something. And we could definitely, I'm not going to never. First of all, why would you give up? It's only going to be, it's going to be in the next week anyway. Might as well try our hardest to get the best possible candidate, right? Like, what do you want me to say? I remember you being annoyed, whatever, when Platner emerged because adequate policies, but not a DSA candidate, completely unknown to DSA, and thus we had no movement vetting, but having to say it is what it is. We have no candidate. He showed up and Mainers love him. That's how the race is going. I mean, I would say I was definitely way more pro Platner than that because of the utility of having a swing state progressive win. You know, that is the reality, is we need to have our politics winning for credibility on the national stage. Let's be honest, Troy Jackson was not winning the primary. I mean, the truth is, Graham Platner dropping out at this time, we might get a better candidate than either one of these people. Yes, Troy Jackson is probably is a lot less, has a lot lower communication skills, but he's a quadrillion, like literally almost anyone they could pick is going to be better than Janet Mills. They're not going to pick Mills. They're not picking Mills. She's a fucking loser. You are a major influence on our movement. Do you think there was a mistake to go down the DSA decision-making process and endorse him? As I think, here's what I'll say. As somebody who is not representing a official DSA capacity, I would never try to confuse the two. There are people that I think we should critically support, and there are movement cadre candidates. If you look and see the people that I actually give money to, the people that I actually support, they're DSA cadre candidates. Every single one, except for Kat Abu Ghazaleh. That's the only candidate who I outright raised. Like, I did we raise money for her? I don't remember. But like, the people that I raise money for and give money to are DSA cadre candidates. And here's the thing. Again, you just have to accept that in politics, you're going to have a situation where things come out about people that you didn't see coming. I mean, this one I think was more predictable. I think, you know, it is what it is. It is what it is. His Insta Facebook comments are full of support. Yes, because those are normie Dems, and they don't give a shit. They're team sports people. Of course, normie Dems don't give a shit. They voted for fucking Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and God knows how many other criminals. Like, of course they don't give a shit. One of the biggest liberal organizations was MoveOn.org. Move on from what? Accusations of sexual assault and harassment by Bill Clinton. That's what MoveOn.org was found. That's what you're supposed to move on from. Move on from these allegations against Bill Clinton in order to do the work of the country. The National Organization of Women, like, endorsed Bill Clinton after he was accused of, like, predating on his 21-year-old intern in the Oval Office. Like, yeah, of course they're going to be like that because they're evil. Maine Democrats would need to select a replacement nominee by 5 p.m. Monday, July 27th. Platter would need to withdraw by 5 p.m. Monday, July 13th for the ordinary replacement process to apply. But we've got plenty of time. We're going to have over a month to set up a process. I think we should do an in-person caucus. That's what I think. I think there should be an in-person caucus in Maine, and then the Maine voters should elect someone. That's what I think they should do. It's the cheapest thing it's expensive, but it's democratic. Pick someone that people like, and then nobody can say it's smoke-filled room, Zionism, you know, shit like that. Over a month, 20 days. Okay, sorry. 3 weeks. That's enough time. Platner aid terms for dropping out. If he was to step down, it would be only with the guarantee of being replaced by a candidate who he believes is true to the values and vision and policy agenda of the campaign the Maine voted for. Absolute fucking worst. Actual narcissist, bro. Actual narcissist. I mean, like, obviously, I hope that a progressive replaces him, right? I hope a progressive replaces them. But at this point, I don't think bro, you are damaging to everything. You need to go away, man. All right, let's watch and see how some of the mainstream media is covering it.
Maine Democratic Senate candidate Graham Platner is now facing calls to drop out of the race after a woman accused him of sexually assaulting her. The woman, Jenny Rasco, detailed her allegations to Politico in a series of 3 interviews over the last 2 weeks. MS Now doesn't identify victims of alleged sexual crimes unless they come forward publicly like she is now. She says she casually dated Platner on and off from 2019 to 2021. She told Politico that Platner, in late 2021, entered her home in rural Maine uninvited and deeply intoxicated. She says he sexually assaulted her after telling him to stop. She then cut off contact with him after telling him the encounter was not consensual. Politico reports Rassico previously described reckless and unsettling behavior by Platner to the New York Times, but she says she didn't go public with the specific assault claim because she didn't want to be known as a rape victim. She told CNN yesterday that her reasons for coming forward now aren't politically motivated.
I couldn't disagree more. That was actually one of the reasons that I didn't come out.
Because you agree with his politics.
I do. I really agree with his politics. I think we need somebody with those political stances and who are willing to do the work. And, I see his political videos. They get me fired up as well. I understand why people want someone like him in office.
We should just watch the original CNN thing. We should watch the internet. I mean, listen, like, this is a Zionist, like, the Zionists are very happy that this happened. Like, you understand that they feel like they're feeling good. And that's why it's important that we have good candidates that are vetted.
You described your relationship with Graham Platner as a very good example of what modern dating is like.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is that, I think there's a lot of situationships. I think people are dating multiple people at the same time, whether that's known or not known by the people involved. So it was just a very common practice is what I viewed it as.
And kind of casual?
Yeah, very casual.
And when did you meet him and how did you meet him?
Met him on Bumble, actually, in 2019. And I had known who he was. He grew up in the next town over. We had like a mutual family friend, so I always knew of his existence, but that was when we actually met.
And what did you think of him?
At first, I thought he was great. He's very well spoken. He's intelligent. He's charming. I thought a lot of good things. We had a great first date. It went and flowed really well.
He has described himself as self-medicating with alcohol.
Yeah.
He has described himself that way.
Yeah.
So I would think maybe that would have reared its head.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's something that I think a lot of people are desensitized to in general, heavy drinking, and especially out of the relationship that I had just come out of. So it wasn't anything abnormal to me. I remember we were out one night and he was drinking, and that's when he told me that he has PTSD.
When the New York Times story came out, you were in it, but you didn't go as far in that story as you are today.
Yeah.
Why not?
I didn't want to. I didn't want to have to violate this huge level of privacy to my own life to be able to infer that this person is not honest and trustworthy. I felt really protective of my own privacy throughout this whole process. And it got to a point where my privacy was no longer going to happen. And that was when I kind of just made the decision that, like, I'm going to say my piece and get it out there. I had tried to give the impression that something, worse happened. And that's when it was like, I refused to comment further.
You definitely alluded to a bad night.
Yeah.
So bad that you never saw him again afterwards.
Yeah.
But just to underline the point, you're not coming forward because you have any political motivation.
No, not at all. That was actually one of the huge reasons that I didn't come forward and still struggled. Like, that was a huge moral conflict to feel like.
Because you'd like a Democrat to be in the Senate.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the things that he speaks about. They're important. They're important to people. I'm one of those people.
But at the end of the day, you feel he's not being honest.
He's not being honest, no.
And we should note, this is 2021 we're talking about. It's only 5 years ago. Tell me about that. When was it?
It was at the end of 2021. I remember it being shortly after I moved back into my winter home, because that is where it happened. And it was a night where him and I were texting back and forth, and he had taken something that I said as an invitation.
You should have stuck to your initial intuition when you said I'm out on Platner after his tattoo reveal, and after the same when you said I'm out on Kat Abu-Ghazaleh after pro-Taiwan policies. For some odd reason, he did a 180 at both and supported them. Hopefully you learned you trust your initial intuitions and not follow whatever Hank Piker says. No. I mean, listen, like, we can't just go off the fucking rip, right? Like, you have to, politics is trying to reason our way into some sort of like reasonable path forward. Giving up a Senate seat is nonsense. You know, it's easy to look back in hindsight and be like, haha, you should have known this. You could only operate from what you know, you know, like developing all sorts of like, oh, well, you know, I'm going to have a time machine and I'm going to know that, you know, the difference between illegitimate accusations and legit. I mean, people call me an anti-Semite. Is that legitimate? Like, is that a legitimate argument? Or are they making that in bad faith? Do you hear me talk about Jews in any kind of conspiratorial way? Do you see me attacking the Jewish religion? Do you see me saying anti-Semitism is good or anything like that ever? Yet people call me anti-Semitic. It's almost as if they're smearing me because I'm pro-Palestine. I mean, like, oh, there you go. Like, critics call me anti-Semitic. Okay. Critics call. Damn. Like, you know, like, I didn't bring Graham Platner on my stream. We didn't raise money for him. I didn't donate, you know, like, meanwhile, I donate thousands of dollars and help raise thousands of dollars for progressive candidates. You know what I mean? Like, that's just, there's a difference between critical support versus a mega Zionist that was contingent on no further scandals happening. And then there's a new scandal where he broke his word to everybody. That, you know what I mean? Like, that's the problem. And like, for everybody who's like, we told you so that Graham Platner was bad. I think you have the total right to do that. I don't even, honestly, I'm not even mad over people feeling vindicated. Like, you're allowed to feel vindicated over Graham Platner, but we need to develop a better process, right? Which is, I have bad vibes against this progressive candidate, so let the Zionist win is not a viable political method, right? You understand that? Like, I have bad vibes about this guy, therefore we should let the AIPAC stooge win. We need to learn from this in two stages. The first stage is look at red flags, but more importantly, we need to have an alternative. When red flags pop up early in the process, we need to have alternatives. That is the actual difference. Liberals can't take any W off this. It's the leftists. But the less it is, we need to be more ambitious with our cadre candidates who we vet. You know what I mean? Like, that is the reality. And Maine, the reason why Graham Platner is famous is because he ran and nobody else did. The reason why he was able to sweep it, get a lot of people excited about him, is because they were so desperate for something new. And he said the right things. And people were willing to overlook bad biography or bad, you know, his alcoholism or his womanizing, because they believed there was nothing criminal and predatory there. But once the accusations become specific, articulated, and are well supported, the red flags are no longer red flags. They are absolute confirmation of a continuing pattern of narcissistic and sociopathic behavior. You realize demonstrating not knowing how to vet people makes us look stupid as shit? I mean, obviously, whatever vetting fails, you look bad. But it doesn't matter how good of a process you have. What, you think that if someone wants to run for office, we should interview every single one of their exes first? Somebody wants to run for office, we should look through every single post they've ever made on every account? You think that's viable? Do you want to run for office under those conditions? Like, obviously, that's an insane thing. However, what we need to do is create a society where women can come forward. This was unreported until now. You know, like, like, honestly, it's a little bit childlike to think that we can live in a society where nothing ever bad ever happens to us. All you could do is set up systems and set up probabilities and try your best. And still, some bad things are going to happen. It's childish to think that you can make things perfect and then never have anything bad. Bad things happening are the way life is. But now we know about this, so we can move. And we can get rid of this disgusting rapist and replace it with somebody who we believe is better. That's what we can do. And we can learn from this and say, hey, let's try to develop more DSA cadre candidates for 2028. Ultimately, this is on the people of Maine and the progressive movement in Maine for not having a better candidate. Like, it is what it is. All of us, that's where he comes from. He won the Maine primary with more votes than anyone had. He was the choice of the people of Maine, not my choice. I didn't find him. I didn't recruit him. We made a critical decision between guaranteed war criminal supporter Susan Collins and the probability that he would be something different. And now that we have evidence that he's unviable and he's a fucking predator, get rid of him. Did you say he won the main primary because you recommended him? That would probably be tongue-in-cheek, right? Obviously, that's... Why are people willing to break with trustworthy allies over complete randoms who are polling well? I mean, I think it's pretty unfair to say that Graham Platner was a complete unknown at this point. He had been pretty thoroughly vetted, and then something else additionally came out. Like, it is what it is, right? Like, it is what it is. More shit came out. Like, again. And I think maybe it's because I've been involved in politics for longer than most people in the chat. I had people get arrested for corruption, you know, like, and nobody saw it coming. Like, it's just like, people are doing shit that you don't know about. And when you find out about it, that's the test. Did you try to cover it up? Did you try to, you know, go after the victim like people did for Andrew Cuomo or Bill Clinton? Or did we say, this guy's a rapist, get rid of him? Like, this is gonna happen. There's a lot of women that are getting assaulted. There's a lot of men doing assaults. It should be a surprise to you that our most successful candidates are all women and women of color, because there's a lot less risk of being a fucking rapist if it's a woman. There's a lot less risk of there being violence if it's a woman. Women candidates goated. Isn't this also a good reason to have the DSA, because other DSA members will have known you for years? Social vetting. Yes, exactly. There's a lot of, you know, and by the way, like, let's not pretend, like, for example, you know, Sherrod Brown running in Ohio, his ex-wife accused him of abuse in their divorce. Now she says that he's a good man and she recants. But it is what it is, you know, like Warnock. I think Raphael Warnock has something similar. It is what it is. Surely there aren't enough mature DSA chapters to be ready for 2028. We're still going to have to make compromised decisions to support non-DSA candidates for a while. Yes, of course. John Favreau, women like Daria Lisa are moronic, but not Platner, who did cover up his Nazi tattoo before running. Yeah, that's misogynoir. You notice how sometimes I wonder if you mispronounce names over. I mean, I do. I'm mispronouncing Sherrod Brown just for to make sure I'm mispronouncing a white man's name a lot. So you know what I mean? I gotta intentionally mispronounce his name. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, Daria Lisa, amazing candidate. Hearing on live streams with left-wing commentators Hassan Piker and Mike from PA, whom critics call anti-Semitic. So now Hassan and I are just anti-Semitic. You see how noticeably that's just insane? Do we believe people can't change? No. Are these allegations legitimate? Yes. Extremely legitimate. Me making fun of your poor choices, the championing of a woman being essayed. I mean, I think what's obvious is that you don't care about that, right? Like you're not interested in like creating a less misogynistic society. You're just like, I think I can score internet points. It's very off-putting. And you don't really acknowledge how the people that were critically supporting Graham Platner, now that they have this accusation, which is highly credible, they're withdrawing that support. You know what I mean? Like the fact that you don't really care about that is a sign that you're not interested in truth or justice for women or whatever the fuck.
And that's not how he meant it. And I quickly clarified. And he sent a message back indicating that he would come over. And I said, no, don't come over. Like, I'm not in the mood. Don't come over. And I was more stern with that message. And then I didn't hear back from him. So I thought that that meant he got the message or gave up on it or whatnot. And so like half an hour later, I heard a noise outside my door. And then he...
Like, for example, Rashida Tlaib, you know, she said this, often held up as the best of the best, right? She endorsed Graham Platner, too. I'm withdrawing my endorsement of Graham Platner and calling on him to exit the race immediately so that he can be replaced by a progressive fighter who will deliver for the people and help win back the Senate. These allegations are devastated and must be taken seriously. And yes, that's the reality. Again, this is politics, man. We can't know everything about everyone. There's no way of living in a perfect world. And obviously, trying to achieve power involves making critical support decisions, and some of them are going to look bad. You know, the question is, what do you do when you are given that irrefutable evidence? But why was Rashida Tlaib supporting Graham Platner in the first place? Because he was anti-Israel. He was pro-Palestine. And the choice was a dyed-in-the-wool Zionist who was going to give millions and billions more. And we're talking about this today instead of the fact that Hamas is dissolving itself. Hamas is literally dissolving itself because of the pressure of empire, because of what it means to be under siege and under war. And Western leftist LARPing, it's fucking embarrassing. You're not some sort of anti-Zionist crusader if you're out there trying to throw shit on the people that are working their asses off to get American support withdrawn from Israel. You are a useful idiot for Zionism. Do you think mainstream media will call anti-Zionist candidates rapists? If they're rapists and they can get away with it. Hamas is not dissolving and disarming they're dissolving the government in Gaza. Excuse me. They're not completely getting rid of the organization, but they're dissolving the government. They're giving up on the government. I didn't want to misspeak.
He came in. He just came into my house. It was unlocked. I live in an area where you don't usually have to lock your doors. I do now. So he came in and I realized, okay, he didn't listen. He's in my home. And I was laying on the couch. It was probably pretty late at night and I was already ready for bed. I just wasn't in bed. And so he had kind of like jumped on top of me and indicated that he had intentions that were sexual in nature. And I remember just at first being like, hey, I'm not into this. Like, I'm not in the mood. Like, don't, whatever. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, I feel like I've said this enough times. Like, he's not listening to me or he's not hearing me. And I looked at him and I remember this very specific look in his eyes. And I could smell alcohol and I was like, this is different. He is heavily intoxicated. Like, and that blank stare was kind of like a photographic memory that I still have of that night. And that was me recognizing what the situation was. And this wasn't just like, oh, hey, somebody showed up and I'm going to tell him to go home. Like, he was heavily intoxicated, had intentions with me, and wasn't listening when I said no. And
you were saying no, don't.
Why is this audio so fucking garbage? One of the most important stories of the year, they can't get the fucking audio mics right. Like, god damn it.
Don't. Over and over and over.
I remember, obviously I've had to recall a lot of this. This is something that I tried for many years to forget. And so small details, might get past me. But yes, I remember very specifically saying, I'm not into this. In my message previously, I had told him I had had an old back injury, and I remember saying, like, I'm not in this. I've had a long day. My back hurts. Like I was in that kind of mood, like the leave me alone mood. And there was a little bit of like scuffle, like altercation. The house that I live in has like this antique sewing kit that I kept beside the couch, and that got knocked over. He like backed into it, or something was maybe pushed into it by me, or something happened in that moment, and that thing got spilled. And
do you remember pushing him away?
I remember potentially pushing away with my legs, and then as he backed into it, it spilt, and all of the sewing needles and tape and yarn and everything went everywhere. Everything had fallen onto the floor, and in that moment, I evaluated my safety. Like,
as somebody who has been around an abusive alcoholic, and if you haven't ever been around an abusive alcoholic, now I'm a guy, and so I didn't feel like that person was able of overpowering me and but they were still so fucking out of control. And from that experience in my own personal life, I filter out alcoholics. I'll be completely honest. If somebody is like a really bad alcoholic and it's untreated, I don't trust them with anything that's important to me. And I try to keep our friendship at the acquaintance level, because alcoholism leads to incredibly scary situations, incredibly dangerous situations. And I try to get people, whenever I see someone with an alcohol problem, I try to make sure they get help, and because of experiences like this, where you have a belligerent alcoholic who's violent, it is the most disconcerting experiences that you can have. And and how quickly it can go off the rails. Now, I cannot imagine being her, suddenly woken up in the middle of the night by a guy who's twice your size, trained to kill, bulldozing through your home. The fright. Like, Jesus Christ.
A drunk person who's blackout drunk is in my home, has these intentions with me, has already caused this amount of destruction and not listening to me.
I think one of the things that I will say, like, men in America, maybe the entire idea of masculinity in general has created conditions where this is what women have to go through. Almost every single woman I've ever talked to, if they trust you enough, will tell you stories of this kind of shit. It's why making friends with men is bringing a risk into your home. I mean, like for me, I have a much higher bar for a single man to become into my social circle because of shit like this. You never know when they're going to drink too much, become belligerent and violent. Like, it's crazy that we live in this society and there is so little reflection on it. Something like 95% of violence is committed by men. Notice that conservatives will run around and try to spread propagandistic bile about crime statistics, but they never bring up that almost all violence is committed by men, right? Like, to them, that's immaterial. It's that every woman you know has been abused, but none of the men know any abusers. Liv, thank you for telling us that. And whenever you criticize men, there's this, well, not all men, not me. It's assumed it's not you. Why the fuck are you rushing to tell everyone it's not you? Do you feel guilty? Did you do something? Almost having society with basically 0 third spaces that don't involve alcohol is the best idea. I mean, the fact that he did a DUI and broke into her home, yes, he's a fucking insane predator. This isn't a story of confused consent or reluctance with an ex or, you know, or something like this. This is a full-blown predatory assault, home invasion, rape. The guy should go to prison. I'm not kidding. Like, this accusation is as bad as it gets.
And so I basically felt safe as just complying.
You normally...
I'm a person that masculinity needs to die instead of we need a healthy masculinity. I mean, do you guys remember the performative male trend where people were making fun of guys for reading books about feminism or like having a tote bag or doing or performing some sort of like social consciousness, and people were mocking them for what? Because they were going against their conception of masculinity. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like, oh, did a man not perform masculinity in the way that you think? Was he not reading a book about football and drinking beers? People police the bounds of masculinity, and if you show vulnerability or intellectual curiosity or, God forbid, male feminist, think about the way people talk about male feminist in our society. They try to make it a fucking insult. I mean, I think most of us, if I said male feminist, imagine what a male feminist looks like. I don't think you guys would be drawing pictures of someone who is like attractive and likable. And this is a leftist space. So just imagine how bad it is in the rest of the fucking country. Nigel Farage stated he will resign. Okay, cool. Those trends was because they were using those books and labels to fake being woke to get laid, by the way. Bro, that's the oldest trick in the conservative book, is to say, you don't actually believe those good things. You're trying to get laid. It is literally a conservative fucking propaganda argument. Oh, you don't really want to do that. You just want a virtue signal. It's literally propaganda. I'm sure that's true of some people. Those people are pieces of shit. Aren't all the men in this chat male feminists? I mean, I hope so. I consider myself a feminist. But again, does that make me cooler to say I consider myself a feminist? Do people go like, oh yeah, hell yeah. Do men hear that and go, yeah, that's cool. You're a feminist? Cool, man. High five. The primary way that I get attacked is people try to attack my masculinity. Like, that's literally number one. The primary way. The second thing is I get called an anti-Semite. You go into my replies, the number one thing you're going to see is me getting attacked for my masculinity and me being called an anti-Semite. That's pretty much 90% of what people try to do. It was mostly women saying the performative male was a predatory performance, not to get laid, to explicitly predate on women because that predation was seen as a core of masculinity. I'm going to go ahead and say that may be true in some cases, but overwhelmingly it was about disciplining men for not being masculine enough. You think everybody that was pushing performative male was actually a super left-wing, even more left-wing person with a deeply feminist critique of gender? That's what you think? The majority of people liking those videos and pushing that meme were actually doing it from an even more woke perspective? Really? And again, I'm not saying that being a fake performative male who's doing these things to trick women, of course that's predatory. And just because someone has good politics doesn't mean they can't be. Solio, why are you timing out? What happened? Okay, let's not get, I'm gonna untime you out, but let's not at each other in like, you know, argumentative ways. Like, what are we doing here? Like, especially other longtime community members. So this accusation is actually credible. I cannot imagine a more accurate, more credible allegation than this. If I was the DA, I would prosecute. If I was a detective, I would start a rape charge. I like this rises to the level of an arrest, in my opinion. This isn't just an allegation. This is like got proof. I think Graham Platner should go to prison personally. Like that's how bad this allegation is. This isn't a he said, she said. This is she's accusing him of committing a serious felony assault. There is no nuance here. Wouldn't she need to press charges? That's a myth. That is a myth that exists on television. I don't know why people believe this press charges bullshit. The government presses charges, not the victim. The government always it's the people versus the criminal, not the victim versus the criminal. That's why every criminal case is the state of Maine versus the United States versus. It's not the press charges. As soon as the police become aware of a crime, they can't prosecute it, whether or not the victim wants to or not. Now, the question is, they usually, there's some nuance here. They usually decide not to prosecute if the victim is uncooperative because it'll be hard to get a conviction. But it does not require her to press charges. And the DA can compel her testimony by giving her a subpoena and calling her to the stand. Like that's not how it works. That's not how anything works. That's fucked. It's actually a good thing, man, because a lot of people can be intimidated. If every time a crime is prosecuted, it's because, oh, the victim did it, well, then victims will get threatened and attacked. If people know that the prosecution is not at the whim of the victim alone, that protects victims from being intimidated and attacked. And when somebody commits a rape, it's a crime against all of us. You understand that, right? I'm surprised I have to explain this to a collective audience. Anytime anyone is raped, it is a crime against every human being. And we all have an absolute moral duty to do something about it. Now, obviously, we don't live up to that standard in our shitty fucking world, but that's the problem. I wish this country didn't have tens of thousands of pending rape specimen kits sitting unprocessed in storage. Absolutely. Many men with good politics have shitty relationships with women. There's a certain guy who lives in China with me and is internet famous. When I told him my girlfriend goes to concerts alone, he said that she shaved just in case. It was shocking coming from someone who is a leftist. Cannot believe how socially conservative some people are. I know exactly who you're talking about. I'm pretty sure that guy's a misogynist. I know exactly who you're talking about. And I'm pretty sure that guy's a misogynist. James Waite with the truth nuke. Police will often ask the victim if they want to press charges. Yes, because they're trying to gauge whether or not the victim will be cooperative with the investigation. You know, like that's what it is. Just because you decide not to press charges against your attacker doesn't mean I want him roaming around scot-free. Well, exactly. And a lot of the times there's limited prosecutorial bandwidth, right? Most crimes are not punished. Honestly, I wish everybody took a sociology course on deviance. I think that's actually like, if I was like writing curriculum for society, I would want everybody to take a sociology course on deviance and predatory behavior, because there's a profound lack of understanding on these areas. And, you know, the thing about society is we know two things that reduce antisocial behavior. The first is having all your basic needs met, feeling socially accepted, and having a life purpose or life goal that you are actively striving towards. That's the positive criminal prevention. Second stage is high probability of getting caught. Those are the two sides. That's the carrot and that's the stick. If your society provides for people, it doesn't isolate people, it doesn't create large swaths of society that are ghettoized or rejected because of who they are, who are hopeless, who are in poverty. If you don't have that, plus anybody who commits crimes gets fucking caught quickly. When I say crimes, I mean antisocial behavior. That's how I defend it. That's what a crime is to me. A crime is going to a bar and groping someone. A crime is going and taking someone's personal property. A crime to me is an assault. It is hitting someone. It is driving recklessly or driving drunk. Like, there are things that are antisocial behaviors that should not be permitted. Perhaps also more good influence, not horrifying influence, or insane people rapists as president. I mean, like, obviously that's true. Like, Donald Trump is a rapist. It's hard for us to keep that in the front of our mind all the time. Donald Trump is a pedophile rapist. Mike is pro policing. If that's policing, then I guess I'm pro. If that's policing, which is stopping people from driving drunk, yes, I'm against people driving drunk. I'm against rapists and domestic abusers walking free. I'm against pedophiles walking free. I'm against CEOs dumping chemicals into the fucking river. Like, and I think those people should be stopped. So if that's policing, then I guess I'm policing. If that's not policing, then I guess it's something else. Alcohol seems to be a major problem. Why do you think they tried to ban it? Do you think that was irrational? Do you think when people tried to ban alcohol, they were irrational for thinking that it was a dangerous social ill? Like, being anti-alcohol was originally part of the progressive movement. It was women's right to vote. It's ban alcohol. That was the beginning of the progressive movement, because alcohol was such a social ill. The problem is banning it didn't work. It was a bad policy. The goals of prohibition, which were to reduce the harm of alcohol in society, but banning it didn't do that. Drunk driving could be solved so easily. Every car should have a blow thing. In order to start the car, you have to blow zeros. I absolutely stand behind this. Call me. I mean, people could just have someone else blow into the thing. You know what I mean? Like, every system, every engineered solution you could always go around. Human beings are bright. If you want to prevent drunk driving, have high quality, safe public transit that runs 24/7. So I could go to the party. I don't want to drive because that's a fucking car. Like, every time I go to a party or something and I drive there, now I've got this fucking object that I have to deal with. And it means I can't relax. I can't drink. I have to bring this object. I have to find parking. It's each pain in the ass. I wish I could walk right out my front door and get to my friend's house in an expeditious manner through public transit and be completely safe and not be harassed and not have to deal with antisocial behavior, and it be clean and well lit and convenient. That's how you fight against that shit. When I got out of the army in 2014, it took me 5 years of burning almost every bridge I had before finally going to both jail and rehab to get hold of my alcoholism. I have a long-term relationship and meager prospects, but it's way better than what I used to be. I don't fucking rape anybody, but this PTSD shit is real as fuck. That's why wars are bad, bro. That's why murdering people is bad, bro. And I'm glad that you're improving your life. Keep it up, man.
Use protection.
Yeah.
And this time he didn't, and you didn't want that.
No.
And he didn't care.
No, I don't think my words were falling on deaf ears or drunk ears.
And you were still saying, don't do this, or I'm not into this?
I remember specifically him like grabbing at my chest, and I like hit his hand and I said, don't touch me. And I remember that during the altercation specifically.
Then he kept going.
Yeah, and it was this weird mix of like coming in and out of, I don't think consciousness is the word, but like coming to and kind of falling back into that drunken, I don't know what I'm doing state. And yeah, and he would apologize in those moments and then go back to doing what he was doing.
So he was aware that he was doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And saying sorry.
I feel like he was in moments.
Is there any way that he thought this was consensual, or no? Just because...
I don't believe that you can think that that scenario was consensual. You have to understand that that wasn't, when somebody is repeatedly, when somebody in the middle of it says, don't touch me, like, that's obviously not consensual.
Especially if he's apologizing on occasion.
Yeah. And that next morning, so after everything ended, I ran to the bathroom, which is just beside my bedroom, and I was in there for a while and just trying to like comprehend things. Like,
were you crying? Were you...
I honestly I don't think I was crying. I was like more in shock and yeah, just trying to understand like what had just happened. Especially like this is a person I have known and have trusted and have had very consensual relationships with, like, all along until it wasn't. And so that was a really hard thing to understand, that this was a person I trusted. And so I spent a little bit of time in the bathroom, and when I came back out, he was asleep in my bed. And at that point, I didn't know what my options were. Like, obviously, I don't want this person in my house. And when I, earlier had realized how drunk he was, I knew that he had driven over that way. Like, I'm surprised he made it to my house. And if I woke him up and sent him home, like, I am now making the decision to put somebody that drunk on the road. And
I think, like, the thing that really disgusts me about this is, even after being horribly assaulted, she's still thinking about what's in the best interest of our community. I cannot imagine being in this situation. I think if somebody did something like this to me, I would kill them. You know what I mean? Like, this woman is so obviously a good person. Like, even after this, even after being victimized, she's still thinking of what's in the interest of everyone else, putting everybody else first. I believe her, but like completely, and I don't think I don't think there's any way that she's lying about this. This is about as credible as an accusation can ever get. And by the way, this is sufficient evidence to put him in prison.
Didn't want to live with the fact that like if he got into an accident or hurt somebody else. And I remember thinking that I could tell him to leave and I could call the police immediately and I could at least get him caught for drunk driving. So I was like, I'm going to let him sleep. And the second he wakes up, I'm going to tell him to leave. And so he slept. I lay there in like a state of panic all night. And I remember turning on, I have like one of those noise machines that you sleep with, and I turn it on ocean waves. And I'm like, I'll just try to meditate. And it didn't work. So in the morning, he woke up and he went to go put his arm around me. And I was like, whoa. And realizing this person doesn't know.
It's the mantra of how women are socialized to put everyone else's needs before themselves. Yeah, that's what, I mean, it makes you sick to your stomach. It makes you sick to your stomach. That Graham Platner is such a fucking abuser, man. And he abused all of us. He made us all complicit in his crimes, in his decisions, by having the arrogance and the narcissism to run, to lie to literally millions of people about how he was changed and he was open and he was honest. One of the things that happens, you know, I oftentimes think about the education that I've received over the course of my life and the wisdom that I gained from it. Like for me, the stuff that constantly comes to my mind are the classes that people say are not the ones that matter. I'm thinking about my sociology classes on, am I wrong? Look how Hassan butt licks Platner at APAC AOC. What the fuck? Butt licks? China is going to collapse after the stream. Rigged yet lost. What does this guy say? This guy okay? Might be a little skid. Sorry, chat. I was looking at a chatter's messages. You and Hassan berated any chatter who rightfully called out Platner for fucking months. I think there is definitely lessons to be learned here, which is the problem that we all faced is the difficult choice of politics, which is we have a flawed individual versus somebody who is trying to implement genocide. Janet Mills and Susan Collins are trying to exterminate the Palestinian people. And we have a guy with a flawed background who's come forward and saying, I'm going to fight against that. Obviously, there's red flags in my past, but I've grown and changed as a person. And we were all put into the impossible situation of trying to figure out the best way to proceed from there. It's easy to be an abstentionist and put your hands up and say, I'm not responsible. That's easy. That's the easiest thing in the world. I'm not responsible for anything. I'm going to sit back. I'm not going to try to engage with the reality of what's going on and direct the world in a different way. That's fucking easy. The hard part is trying to muddle through the shit of this world and carve out something a little bit better. Now, Graham Platner broke our trust. Other people are going to break our trust. If you are not an abstentionist, if you're actually involved, people are going to betray you. It is what it is. All we can do is take in new information and react in the most moral way, most moral way, the most politically effective way going forward. If somebody else had run against Susan Collins, who was pro-Palestine, I would have supported them. There wasn't another choice. And for me, stopping Israel is my number one priority. It is what it is. For you, it may not be. It was always a critical support. It was always, he's the least bad option. This is the implications of his victory. This is the way it's going to be interpreted. He didn't come on my stream. He didn't come on Hassan's stream. We didn't have a Graham Platner fundraiser. We didn't have, this is the least bad. It's the same thing. It's the same way I feel about Taurico. It's the same way I feel about a lot of these other issues.
What happened wasn't okay. And so I remember taking his arm and throwing it back at him. And I said, are you fucking serious, Graham? And he's like, what? And I'm like, do you not remember what happened last night? He's like, no. And I'm like, okay, I need you to get dressed and leave and never talk to me again. Like, nothing that happened was okay. And he did. He just got up and got dressed and left and didn't seem concerned.
I don't know what else to say. Like, the guy, the allegation is highly credible. He's evil. He needs to drop out of the race. This is what Zohran Mamdani said this morning. And Zohran Mamdani had spoken positively about Graham Platner in the past, too, because of the message.
Hey, doing well.
I wanted to ask, given that you have a sort of ascendant role in the Democratic Party, could you talk about the Maine Senate race? Do you think that Graham Platner should drop out of the race? And do you have any intention of endorsing any candidates in competitive races outside of New York, El Said, or anyone else?
No, I believe that it's time for him to drop out of the race. And when it comes to my own endorsements, I've made 8 endorsements at the state and federal level. They've all been right here in New York City. I'm incredibly excited at the fact that they won their races, and that's where my focus is. Hey, how's it going, Sally?
Good, how are you?
Doing well.
I mean, and this is why AOC was very, very tight with her endorsement. I criticized her in the past for being too tight with her endorsements, but now you understand why. You understand that, you know, with people, you don't know them. If you just endorse them based on policy alone, you're gonna have situations like this rise up. And it's irresponsible to not do a better job. AOC and Chris Rabb, they thought the guy was problematic. Maybe they knew shit as well. Like, that's the other thing that you guys have to understand. We didn't know. We didn't have access to these, like, possible, like, there was almost certainly rumors swirling, but they were never specific. But maybe they heard this shit behind the scenes. Have you seen the FD and AOC apology forms? I think that AOC is the one who deserves the most apology forms. like, you know what I mean? Like, she's the one who was criticized most heavily for not endorsing Graham Platner. She's the one who deserves the most apology forms. I think the worst thing that we could learn is that we should go after people for posting or some shit like that. This is a direct accusation of rape. I don't care what generation you were in. This is disqualifying. This isn't about posts. This isn't about some other like nonsensical bullshit or making a mistake or having a bad position. This is non-consensual home invasion rape. The guy is a fucking predator who should be in prison. This isn't like, oh, haha, you got it wrong. This guy, like, nobody would have supported this guy if we had known about this accusation from the beginning. He wouldn't have won the primary if we knew about this allegation from the beginning. This is something that's, this goes beyond political disagreement. This is basic character. This is basic. I mean, this guy shouldn't be walking free. Nah, if AOC knew something, Bernie would also know. So I think that's unlikely. AOC just didn't like the vibes and red flags. Exactly. That's exactly true. That's exactly true. Like, and again, when you find yourself going against AOC, maybe have a little bit more humility. I think the main thing, like, if we're going to talk about the red flags, for me, I think the red flag would be the tattoo. I think the tattoo, like, everything needs to be reevaluated in hindsight because he's a pathological liar. I now believe that he did know. When I first heard about the tattoo chat, I said, fuck Graham Platner, and I was out, right? And the reason why is I didn't believe that he didn't know what it was. But over the course of the week, he got it covered up. People, you know, nobody came out and said he knew what it was. You know, the people of Maine seemed to be like, that's, you know, they seemed to be like, we're more concerned about his policies. And I was like, okay, maybe I misjudged the situation. Maybe he is just kind of a dumb chud. He didn't know. But in hindsight, now I don't believe him. I don't believe a word he said. I don't believe a word of his explanations. I don't believe a word that he explained. I think he's a fucking liar. I've said this, and I don't know if I'm right or not, but we have to stop running veterans. I'm a vet, and I know for a fucking fact that vets have too much baggage. Nothing against vets, but I don't think they should hold political office. In general, I would say that I don't consider being a veteran to be a positive for a candidate's background. I don't consider it to be a positive. I don't think we should ever have any kind of categorical exclusion like that. Also, it's against the law for me to say something like that. You may not know that, but it is against the law to say that. Almost baited, yeah. I mean, I'm not stupid. And I'll say it one more time just so everybody kind of gets it. It's against the law to say that. And it's against Twitch's terms of service to say that. I'll just say that one more time. Don't violate terms of service in the chat. Fucking idiots. Jesus Christ. What if they were a combat medic and didn't hold any other position? Is that more understandable? Of course that's more like, what I'm saying is I just said I don't agree with that chatter. I don't think you should I don't think it's a positive to be a veteran, but I don't think you should exclude all veterans. That's insane. I'm holding the position that I can hold that's not against the law or terms of service. Are you fucking, do I have to say it again? I'm holding the position that is not against the law and not against terms of service. Jesus Christ. Twitch does not permit behavior that is motivated by hatred, pet prejudice, or intolerance, including behavior that promotes or encourages discrimination, denigration, harassment, or violence based on the following protected characteristics: race, ethnicity, color, caste, national origin, immigration status, religion, sex, gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, serious medical conditions, and veteran status. Are you fucking stupid? Create speech, imagery, emote combinations that dehumanize or perpetuate negative stereotypes and or memes. Content insinuating that certain individuals with protected characteristics are criminals or terrorists. Create content that expresses inferiority based on a protected characteristic. For example, statements related to physical, mental, or moral deficiencies. Calls for subjugation, segregation, exclusion, including political, economic, and social exclusion segregation based on a protected characteristic, including age. Expressions of contempt, hatred, or disgust based on a... I mean, do you get it? Do you get it? Do you get it? Okay, are we good? There are some opinions you're not allowed to have in the chat. Not my rule. Take it up with Jeff. How is veteran status there? Because it's in federal law. Title 7 of the 1964 Civil Rights Law. Oh, maybe they added it later. This document helps explain where to get help if you're a service member or veteran and you feel have been discriminated against in employment because of your military status, veteran status, or other protected basis. So that's why it's in there, because there's federal laws against discrimination based on veteran status. So it's put in. It's put in the list of things you're not allowed. That's why Hassan got banned. He did not get banned for 9/11. America deserved 9/11. He got banned because he mocked someone's veteran status, Dan Crenshaw. Rogan got banned for saying that veterans deserve PTSD. Do you guys not know this? Do you not remember this? Are you like... I thought you guys were supposed to be like aware of reality. It's like this, multiple members of our space have been like banned for this. And you're going to go ahead and like put that in? Are you stupid? Solio, why'd you delete that? Banger Daily News. Troy Jackson files paperwork to explore running to replace Graham Platner. I think this is pretty much what we're going to... I mean, honestly, if we could get Troy in there, then, you know, it is what it is. Veteran status is included because vets used to be discriminated against as a consequence of sustaining injury or behaviors during the war and the civil rights era. Although, in my opinion, vets should be deleted, and we should acknowledge vets lie at intersection of disability, race, and class politics. I don't know why you're talking down to us. I'm keeping our community safe. That's not talking down. Like, I'm requiring you to have greater than to have the intelligence and discernment to understand community safety from being suppressed by the government. I thought you were, Mike, you were supposed to be aware that people with Nazi tattoos that done 5 tours committing war crimes are bad people. Okay, first of all, yeah, like, again, it's always been against the rules to go against veteran status. You could say the Nazi tattoo makes him a bad person. And if you have clear and like accusations of a crime he committed in the service, like articulable, he shot this person on this date at this place, then I would 100% tell you, I would have not supported him if there were accusations he committed war crimes that were actually articulable, instead of just the general, everybody in Iraq is a war criminal that you guys are doing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a weird way of approaching it. There's Nirav Shah, who's posted that he wouldn't give weapons to Israel and that he believes the Israeli government is committing a genocide in Gaza. He also said he's on board with Medicare for all. Now, Shah is not is the establishment candidate. Troy Jackson is endorsed by DSA, so he's almost certainly the far better choice. What are the logistics? We don't know. This is what I'm talking about, his historical revisionism. I mean, it doesn't even matter. Who cares? Like, I don't even care. I don't want to go in there. Like, it's very narcissistic to be like, actually, with what we knew, it was fine to support Graham Platner. Stop trying to cover your ass. The guy's a piece of shit. Let's focus on getting him out and replaced. People who didn't like him are obviously going to feel vindicated. It would be insane of us to not say that, hey, it looks like your suspicions turned out to be right, but you're still wrong, is an insane position I refuse to take. I refuse to take that. Graham Platner is a disgusting predator. Like, you know, it is what it is. The people that their vibes were off, they were correct about their vibes being off. We all should learn from this. You know what I mean? Like, that's, and what should we learn? We need to have cadre candidates from DSA who are vetted as much better than just somebody who went viral on social media. That was always my problem with people, even like Kat. Like, my problem with Kat Abu-Ghazaleh is, why do people like her? Well, because she went viral on the internet. We didn't really know anything, and she wasn't connected to any movement. Now she's working her ass off to change that. but our skepticism was right. It's good to be skeptical of people that are just famous for going viral online, right? There's totally fine to being skeptical of that. But skepticism doesn't mean becoming inert politically and allowing the Zion. Here's the thing that you guys, everybody needs to recognize and understand. This is the very important point that everybody needs to recognize and understand. If we don't do anything, the Zionists win by default. I don't want that. That is my number one thing to prevent. A lot of abstentionists don't care that that's the reality. I care about that. I want to take power away from Zionists. Do you understand that only 2 people since 1972 have been challenged from the left and lost in the Senate? Since 1972, only 2 senators have been challenged from the left and lost in a primary. I think there's a lot of delusion about where we are as a world and as a country. What we just did this past 2 weeks is more Democratic establishment figures being challenged and primaried and defeated by the left like ever. Okay, it doesn't happen. So yeah, there's going to be growing pains. There's going to be people that disappoint us. There's going to be people during this growth period that suck. Your problem with Kat was her anti-China CIA stance that you called on withdrawing dissociations with her campaign before Assad changed her mind. Come on, oh no, that's absolutely true. The anti-China stance was also terrible. But part of the reasons why I was always squirrely with her was because when she first launched her campaign, I was like, why'd you pick that district? There was no answer, right? And then it was like, why don't you call yourself a democratic socialist? And then she did it. Why aren't you trying to work with DSA, right? Later on, she got better. She refined. She moved to the left and all those. And I want to reward that. I think it's good. But let's not be confused here. Like, if you want to be involved in politics, it's impossible to be perfect. It is literally impossible because you're dealing with other people, not your fantasies, not your imagination, not a dusty book. People are going to betray you. They're going to disappoint you. They're going to change. They're going to do all sorts of shit outside your control. They're going to keep secrets. They're going to have skeletons. And it is what it is. As long as you are not supporting outright evil, when you come across it and you are trying to build towards something better, and you're going to have to muddle through. That is the reality of politics. I don't think the people of Maine that supported Graham Platner were evil people. I think they were trying to make the best decision out of all of bad options. But now he's literally a worse option. Supporting him now is actually helping Zionism. So he's got to go because a lot of people will be disgusted by us if we are associated with this scumbag. So he's got to fucking go. For the good of the movement, for the good of our basic moral sense, he's got to go and he has to be punished for his fucking rape. People only bring up Kat Abou-Ghazaleh because they're butthurt it didn't end up being a wedge. Oh, yeah. They were trying to make it me. They were trying, like, there's a lot of people that are dedicated to destroying me because they're fans of other content creators who are greedy and who are focused on trying to create some sort of like drama tension with me. It has nothing to do with substance. My disagreements with Kat were substantive disagreements. They were not based on personality. They weren't based on anything. It was based on substance and the problem I had with her campaign. My disagreement on Graham Platner had to do with plausibility of stopping Zionism. And now there is a different reality. So I am going to do what I think is morally right. It is what it is. And I don't think people were wrong for not liking Graham Platner. As I said at the time, if you don't live in Maine, go focus on the campaigns you're excited about. There's a lot of work to be done. Right? If you're not a political commentator, you don't have to talk about this shit. You can go work on a campaign you're excited about. And I will give you good candidates, like the people that have come on my stream, Francesca Hong, or Claire Valdez, or Oliver Larkin. Actual socialist candidates, DSA endorsed, pro-Palestine. I don't like how we all knew he was a child murderer. We don't know that he murdered children. You're just saying all veterans are child murderers. It's not like we had clear articulable evidence of him committing crimes. You have him in Iraq as an infantryman. That's all you've got. You don't have, on this date, Graham Platner's platoon shot up a bunch of civilians. Because if we did, we would have supported him. You're just making up fantasies and then you're putting it on people. He was a veteran who served in Iraq. That's what you have, which it's illegal to discriminate against that in America. On Twitch, it's illegal to discriminate someone based on veteran status alone. It's illegal on YouTube as well. You can get your entire platform banned if you say shit like that on YouTube and you get reported. Like, duh. Mike saying that in between Reddit links of him admitting said crime. Okay, bro. Now we're just going off the. Maybe I missed some Reddit post Or he was like, that day of Fallujah, we just mowed down all the kids. If that post exists, please show it to me. I must have missed it. And like, you know, my general suggestion for other content creators is like, you and I have radical positions. They're outside the mainstream. We don't have positions that are the majority. They are oftentimes illegal or heavily sanctioned to hold. There's a reason why I get smeared as an anti-Semite everywhere I go. It's because I'm anti-Israel. Because the establishment wants to destroy everybody and make an example of anyone who has a platform. I could have just said nothing, right? Go look at David Pakman. Go look at all of those fucking content creators who talk about politics who never mention Israel and Gaza. They're doing fine. This is not a position that makes you more popular. It's not a position that makes you more comfortable. It is a position that puts you under a target. It's obvious how many on both sides of the mania only care about the gamification of politics. People doing victory laps now that we know is genuinely evil. On the other side are still fighting as if it's a rat fuck story. Who? I don't think there's any mainstream progressive commentator who is saying that this is a rat fuck story. There might be like random posters that have 100 followers on Twitter or like local Maine Democrats on Facebook. Who are the people? Shaky Gurga is? I made fun of him for that, actually. I forgot about that. I said, what the fuck is this? It says, congratulations to national media on politically assassinated Graham Platner. It's not a political assassination. The guy's a fucking rapist, man. Like, come on. He's accused of a fucking home invasion rape. He's accused of a home invasion violent rape. Like, it doesn't get any worse than this. Also, driving drunk to do it. They're using it as a rat fuck. It's not a rat fuck if you're a rapist, man. If you are committing a home invasion rape, you have to be defeated because you're going to lose to the Republicans. They got to rip you out of there because anyone sane is going to be disgusted by this. That's not a rat fuck. That is saving the country from losing to fascism. If he drops out, the Democratic Party tries to give us two candidates who are both for Israel corporate PACs. They'll face a revolt like they've never seen. Days of bullshit false choices are over. Bro, come on, man. Come on, man. The reason why this is gross is it's this fuck Graham Platner. Also, national media, what the fuck are you saying, man? They did their job. They did their fucking job. They reported that the guy was a fucking psychotic home invasion rapist. Home invasion? Yes. He broke into her house uninvited. The fuck do you think that is? He showed up after being told not to come and forced himself onto her while drunk. Exactly. Some of us saw Blackwater Burke and Abu Ghraib and understood that he was a fan of sexual violence. You reflect long and hard on why you did. Okay. Again, I don't think... Honestly, I don't care if those people are like, we knew he was a piece of shit. Honestly, totally fine. I have nothing against people saying that we knew Graham Platner was a piece of shit. I think it's a complete waste of time to try to defend yourself. The reality is, he's not worth it. I am focused on defeating Zionism. Graham Platner is an enemy to that goal. Get rid of him. People want to say, I knew he was a piece of shit before. Good for you. Are you going to help us find someone else who's going to beat Susan Collins, who's going to be pro-Palestine, who doesn't have that fucking terrible track record? I'm mad at Troy Jackson. He didn't run in the primary. No one else ran. That was pro-Palestine. That's what happened. Fine, that doesn't mean they get to be annoying. I mean, I think it's actually insane to try to argue with them at this. They deserve, I'm sorry, they deserve time to be annoying. Like, maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like people deserve a little bit of like, I told you Graham Platner was a piece of shit. Like, I don't like, like, what the fuck? Like, of course they do. You know what I mean? Like, why the fuck are we going to try to yell at them to be quiet? No. People are trying to say DSA was bad now. No, Platner was never endorsed by them. Correct. He never was. It's not about deserving. It's about conflating rape with shit like being a vet. I've said before, and I'll say again, you cannot discriminate against veterans on social media. It's against all their terms of service. My position is that being a veteran is not a positive. Do you understand me? And for most Americans, they consider being a veteran a good thing. Maybe we should do more purity tests. I think the problem with the Graham Platner purity test is it's like, what people want is an alternative. If there had been a progressive alternative to Graham Platner, who is a viable candidate, and we decided to pick, we all fought for Graham Platner over that progressive alternative, then you guys would have more of a point. The problem is there was no pro-Palestine alternative in the Senate race in Maine because no one else ran. And everybody's going to try to point to the guy the other guy who ran. The guy is a perennial candidate with no campaign and raised no money and is not a serious campaign. I'm talking about a serious campaign. There was no alternative. Because why? The DNC cleared the field and told everybody to run for governor instead. So if you want to be mad about Graham Platner, you should be yelling at the DNC because they cleared the field of anyone who was vetted and a reasonable progressive politician because they wanted Janet Mills to win. Even the victim thought about voting for Platner because of how fucked. Yeah, and this is actually the story that matters, right? Which is like, she said, my part of the story was just a read over. And the story was Lindsay and the accusations of her being politically motivated. Is it Rassicot? Rassicot said she was torn over coming forward in part because she agrees with Platner politically. One of the reasons I didn't come forward sooner was the huge moral conflict that I've been between supporting his politics but not supporting him as a person. I just want the truth out there. I want people to have the whole scope of who he is as a person. I mean, like that to me, Rassico. Okay. Thank you, chat. I think this is the nub. What I'm seeing is just how many people don't care about the victim of SA and wanted to yell that I was right. Yeah, I do think that's fucking off-putting. I do think it is very weird and off-putting to be like, I was right. You were right about what? You secretly knew she was a rapist and you didn't give the, like, you didn't know this. You had other reasons for not liking him, which many of those were valid. You're allowed to not like the guy. And if you're not, as I've always said, if you're not in Maine and you don't like, and Graham Platner's background is off-putting to you, go focus on Abdul. Go focus on a million other races we're working for. But the reality is that Graham Platner represented a pro-Palestine progressive campaign in a swing seat, and that's what people are excited about. But the reality is that's not good enough anymore. And I've always been that person. Bro, you say you were right all the time? No, of course. What? I've literally said I don't think people... I can't keep repeating myself. Watch the VOD. I can't keep repeating myself. You got to watch the VOD. I wish she had come out earlier. But honestly, I don't think this could... Like, this is literally... This explains everything to me. Many of the people that are running victory laps are going to turn their sights at Abdul being a bad candidate. Well, of course. Mike, how can you rewind? It's not an appropriate time for that, guys.
That's how fucking insane American politics is right now, because that's the other side that she literally was like, I probably shouldn't come out about my credible rape accusation and maybe even might vote for my rapist because at least he's not a child rapist like the fucking president allegedly could be. American politics is now a sequence of insane decisions where on the one hand, you're like, well, do I want my rapist in office? Well, maybe he's going to be in support of Medicare for all, and he's anti-Israel. Whereas the other side is also rapists, some of them defenders of child rape. So I guess we got to weigh the options, like which rape is the lesser evil? The lesser evil rape trolley problem, which, by the way, ironically enough, if he was a fucking centrist...
That's the other thing. The centrists have no problem with this. We have problems with this because we're moral people. They don't. They defend Bill Clinton. They defend Andrew Cuomo. They were all Swalwell supporters. You know what I mean? They don't give a shit about the rape. They're just happy they got rid of Graham Platner and they hope they can hijack the primary in an anti-democratic way. That's really what it is. To your point, the Democrats knew about credible allegations about Eric Swalwell and did nothing until the story broke. Exactly. So my general feeling is like, you know, for somebody like FD Signifier or someone or anyone else who was anti-Graham Platner, my general feeling is they're allowed to be like, I knew that guy was a piece of shit. You know, their vibes, they said they vibed him out. They didn't like him. His vibes were off. And then this comes out. I don't want to begrudge anybody the right to say, I knew that guy was a piece of shit. Okay, I mean, that's fine. The problem is the idea that vindicates anti-electoral work or not trying to defeat Zionism or anything else. Or God forbid, centrism. That's insane. Or the idea that he was endorsed by DSA or endorsed by us. He wasn't. And there was good reasons for that because he hadn't earned it. And if anything, this vindicates something that I have been saying, and it actually separates me from other commentators, is I don't like progressives. I don't like Warrenites. I don't like Brad Lander. I don't like Elizabeth Warren. I don't like people that are not socialists. That has been my position for a long time, which is I will, you know, do lesser of two evils for a progressive, but they're not who I like. That being said, we have to get to a certain number of votes in these legislative bodies in order to do policy. And we have got to do something. And by the way, on Fox News just the other day, they said that we're going to treat Israel like South Africa. This clip may be impossible to find, but Jules, if you could find this, or anybody else, if you could find this, one of the Fox News anchors said, I think it was the blonde lady. Who's the blonde lady? Fuck. That doesn't narrow it down at all. Laura Ingraham, thank you. She said, we're going to do to Israel, the left wants to do to Israel what we did to South Africa, which is sanction them. And she's right. I've spoken with Graham Platner about the best path forward to Maine. In light of these very serious allegations, I have recommended that he step aside. I mean, it's been toast since yesterday. And once I found out about this, I was 100 like this. Like I read this allegation, it is about as credible as it could possibly be. The way the Electoral Committee usually works is we don't seek out candidates from outside the DSA for endorsement. They come to us. No, that's exactly the right way to do it. We just need to have more DSA members, and we need to actively recruit more of our own members to run for office. We need to have an active political development where we are working to get people in.
Reporters who broke the story of the new allegations. Senior national politics correspondent for Politico, Adam Wren. Adam, I want to get right to the questions about this, the questions surrounding this on both sides of this debate. There's not a police report, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. And there's not a legal case playing out here for due process to see itself through. So my question to you, given the very high standards Politico has before they write something like this and publish it, what aspects of this story brought it to the level of publishable?
Yeah, you're correct here, Mika. There is no police report in this case. We spent a lot of time talking to Jenny, asking her for corroborating evidence. She shared that she had confided into a number of people, including her therapist, in almost real time. And we reviewed email exchanges between she and her therapist, referring to what she called this sexual assault, and her therapist sort of acknowledging that this had happened to her. We talked to people who she confided in the months after this happened. We asked her why she didn't.
You think Platner should endorse his replacement? No. I think Graham Platner should go away. I think he should withdraw from public life, and he should go away and never be heard of from again.
Turn our government over to a bunch of Democrat socialists. Israel will be treated like South Africa was in the 1980s.
Yes. Good. I'm sorry, are you saying that you think the boycotting of apartheid South Africa in the 80s was a bad thing, that it was unfair to South Africa? Because it really sounds like that's what you mean.
All that socialist hippie boycotting is bad for the economy.
Hey, you know what's bad for the economy? Apartheid. Really just oppression and inequality in general. You know why? Because the purpose of the economy is to create a safe and productive and prosperous environment for human beings to thrive within. So if it's creating oppression and slavery and inequality and conflict and chaos, then the economy is failing to deliver on literally the only thing it's actually supposed to be for. At which point, the people collectively refusing to participate in the objectively dysfunctional economic system is the fiscally responsible, correct response. Now, apartheid South Africa is actually quite an apt comparison. And not just because the Israeli government's treatment of the Palestinian people very thoroughly meets the criteria necessary to be considered apartheid, which it does, it objectively does, but because the boycotts and protests, particularly university students pressuring their universities to divest from the apartheid South African economy, played a recognized, significant, and understood role in helping to turn the tides and change public opinion to actually take action to fix the problem. That's why the authorities and the establishment crushed this so hard, right? The university students pressuring their universities to divest from the Israeli economy because they were doing something that might actually be effective, which is actually kind of a good measure for whether or not your civil disobedience is actually effective. If the people in power instantly paint you as vandals and criminals and up to no good, you're probably doing something effective. If they give you an official government-sanctioned license and route and official time and schedule to protest in, then you're probably just taking your sign for a walk. Now, I feel like it's relevant to remind people that this all happened during the Biden administration, right? Which reminds me of a Chinese saying about Western politics. They say in China, you can change the policy, but not the party. In the West, you can change the party, but you can't change the policy. This is the official policy of the Western power structure. This aligns with the ideology of the people that actually have the power. Now, you've probably heard that a report recently came out of the UN confirming that the Israeli government and the IDF do indeed deliberately target Palestinian children. Now, the thing that strikes me as particularly sad about that is we all knew that already. And don't get me wrong, it's good that they made a report to officially codify the information, but there's no shock and awe, right? There's no surprise here. I mean, you don't really need to look any further than just listening to the words coming out of the horse's mouth.
We change Israel's security doctrine. We initiate, we attack, we surprise, and we attack those enemies that seek our destruction, that seek to kill us. We attack them before they have a chance to do so. If you know Hebrew, Akam leorgecha, Ashkem leorgo. Kill them first.
Kill them first. That's the official policy, and it's been the official policy for decades upon decades. The thing is, the IDF have killed Palestinians more than Palestinians have killed Israelis at a rate of over 25 to 1, and that's before October 7th. If you include everything since then, the ratio's much, much worse. So how many decades worth of killing them first have to happen before you acknowledge that what's actually happening is you're just killing them, and then they're fighting back? And if, unlike me, you actually believe that this administration are honestly trying to end the violence by preempting the violence with violence to stop the violence from happening, as opposed to just trying to ethnically cleanse Palestinian people out of the region by making their existence violent and unlivable, which seems to be what's actually happening. But if you are a believer, how many decades worth of preemptive violence to stop the violence, which inevitably leads to way more violence, do you have to see before you acknowledge that this is a really fucking stupid strategy that only an idiot would pretend to believe in?
Because if we turn...
I mean, like, and that's what I want. What I want is for us to, as a movement, excommunicate Graham Platner, remove him from public. He should not be part of public life. He should never be heard of again. He should become a footnote in American history. And that is the reality. What we as a movement need to do is find an alternative, progressive, pro-Palestinian that we can get behind. And it seems to me that we have one. And that's what I care about. I care about policies. Call me naive. I want these policies accomplished because this is the alternative. This is what we can't be abstentionists. Because America is careening toward fascism, and either we take power away from them, we're going to face this.
The country's 250th birthday festivities, a stark and disturbing display, emerged from our nation's capital on Saturday when masked members of the white supremacist group, the Patriot Front, marched through Washington, D.C., carrying Confederate flags and shouting slogans like, quote, "Reclaim America." One photographer captured this stunning, now viral photo of a young black woman sitting on a Metro car while the masked men surround her. Joining our panel now is Roswell Encina, who was also photographed riding the Metro next to Patriot Front members over the weekend. Roswell, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Casey.
Can you take us inside? I mean, I think when we see that photo, it's silent. You see these people standing in their masks. You see this woman sitting there. What was it like to sit on a train car like that?
It was very unsettling, as you can imagine, very uncomfortable. You know, I was heading towards Maryland to the New Carrollton station. If you live in Washington, that's the last stop on the line. You know, it was full of just normal tourists and families from Washington, all in red, white, and blue, ready to go to the mall or get off at Capitol South by the Capitol. You know, when they emptied out, I realized, oh, that was fun. It was nice seeing parents with their kids and babies just celebrating the 4th of July. Then after they left, the car pretty much emptied up. At the next stop, I saw this mass amount of men in masks and hats and sunglasses, and it was very unnerving. I probably kind of froze there when they were all kind of boarding, not knowing what was happening, and I had no idea who they were, so I was naturally nervous when a big group of unidentified people walk in.
And you ended up in some photographs taken by a Getty Images photographer. What did it say to you that there was a photographer there?
That's when it alarmed me. This is something, But the photographer also gave me some comfort, knowing that somebody was there with a camera, just in case something happens, because I was realizing if anything happens, I won't be able to identify any of them because they're all dressed the same. So it made me realize to start paying attention. What are they wearing? What's on their hats? What's on their shirts? Just to give me an educated idea who they were. And I was texting some friends, this is happening. I just want you to be aware that I'm in the middle of a metro by myself. So if anything happens, you know what's happening.
Do you have any thought as you're on the train as to who they might be? Like I know you said you didn't know who they were, but what were you speculating when you see a bunch of white guys with masks and hats?
I mean, clearly they needed to cover their faces for a reason, right?
My mind immediately went to that they were white. So, and I work for the U.S. Capitol Historical Society. So my first thing is, I need to remember this and try to document of what's happening. I'm not comparing myself clearly to real American heroes like Rosa Parks and folks who sat in at diners in the 50s and 60s, but I knew this was a moment that I have to kind of be present, turn off whatever I was listening to on my earbuds and make sure I was aware of what was happening.
I'm sure their presence was unsettling, but how did they behave on the train, and what sort of sense did you get from them on the car?
They were surprisingly very civil and very organized. They were just chatting among themselves like any other people who were sitting or traveling.
Do they intentionally wear the Epstein fit? I mean, I think it's the Epstein class comes from the same class of guys that would do this. Ernie told Platner to drop out. Yeah, we saw that.
Using the metro, just from what I could hear, many of them didn't even know each other. I could hear them introducing themselves to one another with their full names and asking where they're from and how they're doing. So,
hey, one more question for you. Any insight into the woman who's photographed? Did you see her? No?
No, that's another reason. I really was just by myself, I think, in the car, along with a Getty photographer. And because there were about 400 of them, so I'm assuming they took over several metro cars of that train. And it's another reason I decided to, talk about this. That image of that young woman is very compelling and very powerful. And, clearly, as my position at the Capitol Historical Society, I do have a platform to talk about this and give my insights on, the history and the civics that are connected to all this, but this young woman doesn't.
You, of course, posted a little bit about your own personal story, and these are people who were here to say, reclaim America. But the story you have has been considered a quintessential American story. How does that fit with your experience with this?
I mentioned in my social media post that I moved to this country when I was an infant. I was a year old. My father was serving in the U.S. Navy, and my mother, so we all moved to Connecticut. It's the quintessential American story. So my father was being stationed back and forth between the Philippines and the U.S. base in the Philippines and back here in the States. So I remember when I turned 18, we were living in the Philippines, and he brought me to the U.S. Embassy to vote in the 1988 presidential election. I just turned 18. I was very excited to do it. So since then, I've been very kind of not taking civic engagement and voting for granted. As we've all learned, too many people have died and fought for that right, especially for women and for people of color to vote in this nation. So as this was all happening on the 4th of July, it really was a big moment to reflect on not only my personal life, but of the nation.
Yeah. Brad Todd, were you surprised by how the administration responded to this? In fact, before I ask you that, let me play what Doug Burgum, the Interior Secretary, had to say to our colleague Dana Bash here on CNN on Sunday. Let's watch that.
One of the foundational principles of the United States, which makes democracy messy, is free speech. And there are plenty of things that I see that I might personally find offensive, irreprehensible. But in America, free speech is allowed, and this is by the whole spectrum of things.
Will you recommend to the president that he condemn this group?
And part of my response to that is that there are protests on the Mall that people say things that I think are irreprehensible about President Trump, and yet they're allowed to go on because of free speech in our country.
It's easy to condemn them, and I would condemn them instantly. And I think, but the rest of his comments are right. And if you live in Washington, D.C., as we all do, you know, the metro any given day is full of fruits and nuts who are coming here really angry about something. I remember taking my kids to an inaugural in 2017. They were quite small. I just wanted them to experience history. And as you remember that day, there were more
He brought them to the Trump inauguration? He wanted them to experience history?
Protesters probably downtown than there were supporters of the president.
And then he says there were more protesters than supporters. Amazing.
They were very angry and they were very profane, and they were frankly it was not appropriate, some of the things they were saying. I remember thinking this is really a bad parenting moment for me to have had my kids out in this mess. And so I don't think it's unusual for people to come to Washington to say controversial things.
He's trying to compare the Women's March to Patriot Front. I think the one thing that we need to understand is why it's necessary that we win power. We have to win power in order to overturn scumbags like this, to throw this type of person out of office, who is a literal fascist fuck.
And I condemn these guys, and I condemn what they think and what they say. But that is part of a free society, is to have this open public square where you can come.
Except if you're pro-Palestine, in which case you get deported and you go to prison, right? Or if you're anti-ICE, then you get deported, you get thrown in prison for 50 years because someone else in the crowd commits a crime.
Say things that other people are going to find reprehensible.
So on your point about an open public square, I want to play this moment from The View earlier today, because one thing about free speech, of course, is that, yes, you put your face out there, you say what you have to say. These people did not. Let's watch like this moment that includes one of our CNN colleagues, Alyssa Farah.
That, for me, was a defining image of modern America for Black Americans. As a Black woman, I'm sitting there in my country, and that's the type of fear I have to experience.
And by
Come
the
on.
way, show your face. I'm not one to call names, but these losers need to take off their masks, their little old man khakis. Show your face if you're going to.
Remember how all the conservatives were losing their shit about masks should be banned, and now masks are fine. Masks are fine for ICE and Patriot Front, but not fine.
Be a bigot.
Show your face if you're going to be a bigot.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll agree it's their free speech right to cover their face, and sometimes the law allows you to cover your face, but it's an act of cowardice. These people are cowards, and we ought to say that. So agree.
Just like using pseudonyms on social media or newspaper comments, you shouldn't do that either. You should use your own name.
No egg for a profile photo. Put your face out there and be on it. No, I just no, absolutely. So it is what it is. Back to the free speech point. I think the secretary. Everything he said was right to a point. If he just said free speech and free speech is messy and we have the right to speak in this country, that's great. And that was perfect and accurate. Then he went into this thing almost equating criticism of Donald Trump with white supremacy. And it's just not on par. That's what I would call acceptable political speech. Of course, one can be critical of a political leader. We're talking about vicious, vile conduct here that sometimes can be criminal, and I just think the secretary tiptoed up to almost suggesting that they're one and the same, and they're just not.
And everyone's right to say they have a right to free speech.
Yeah.
So does the president, and he chose not to exercise his free speech on this issue. It's not like he's got a problem doing that in general, right? He'll jump on Truth Social to criticize anybody and everybody who disagrees with him. As far as I can tell, Secretary Burgum has been the only voice of the administration to really speak out on this. And the fact that the president on America's birthday didn't stand up to lift up American ideals that these guys are antithetical to is disappointing.
Well, and I think it's also worth noting, and we saw this in the run-up to January 6th, that there are people who hear what the president says, stand back and stand by. They hear what he doesn't say, and they certainly interpret it as a permission structure from the very highest levels of our government that in the past has been something that has not been there, or at least not in the recent past, as we have grappled with all of this.
We are in an extraordinary moment. So where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? And as this last year has gone on, there has been one organization that has been far and away better than any other organization. which is the Democratic Socialists of America. But notice the difference in the way Daria Lisa's tweets were treated by white progressives and the way that Graham Platner's history and past were treated by, for example, the Pod Save guys. I've been 100% behind Daria Lisa. I have been trying to defend and promote women of color that have emerged from DSA. We need to make sure that in the future, we remain focused on those races that are part of our movement, not just adjacent to it. Like there has been this, I've been trying to figure out a way to discuss this, which is the progressive milieu, your Ro Khannas, your Graham Platners, your John Fettermans, your Jared Goldens. These are people that opportunistically tried to take on the energy of this left-wing populist. MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and MGP, Marie Gustenkamp, concentration camp Perez. They all tried to suck up this progressive milieu from outside of socialist organization, and then they became betrayers. And that is the lesson for me. That is where we go from here. It's uncomfortable. It's bad, but that's reality.
Good morning.
I'm done with progressive labels. That's how I felt since 2020. Every single time I go outside of that, I regret it. Shoycott, Tom Steyer. Now, those were all critical support. Graham Platner, critical support. Every time I go against my instincts, it's a mistake. You know, every time I'm like, well, we're trying to make some sort of lesser evil decision, it's always a fucking mistake. There's a reason why I've stayed away from Cal Rico, because I could see it coming from a mile away. You say fucking Texas Pete Buttigieg. I want nothing to do with Talrico.
Everybody, happy Tuesday. Have an amazing show for everybody today. Bro shows. Good to see you, Ryan.
Awkward day for a bro show, but
yeah, I was actually thinking about that.
Here we are.
Yeah, it may not necessarily be the best day for a bro show, but bro show is what.
I'm speechless. I'm actually speechless. Let's do a bro show. Why don't they have the women in the show, by the way? I thought I was going to see Crystal Ball. Where the fuck's Crystal? Let's lead off with the bro candidate getting chased out of the race for being a rapist and then fist bump and call it the bro show? I fucking hate. I gotta be honest with you, chat. I have always disagreed with Sagar as having any value at all. Are like, do they have a bunch of right-wing fans watching the show? I don't think they do. This show sucks. Like, the entire conceit of this show is stupid. I'm sorry. I love Crystal. But the idea that there's some sort of like, even the logo has the red being bigger than the blue. Like, what is going on? I don't like this. I don't like the premise of the show that there's any kind of alliance between the populist right and the populist left. No, there's not. No, there fucking isn't. The populist right loves Donald Trump's Epstein ass. That's just not the case. It's like, what the fuck are we doing? And then this on top of everything is insane. Was supporting Platner absolutely the right call until new information came out? No, I don't think so. I think there was enough smoke. I'm not gonna try to go back and be like, "Oh, I was right at the time." No, I think the people that were saying, "Hey, there's a lot of smoke here. This guy's not trustworthy. He's gonna burn you." Fell for it again award. I think those people are right. I think, yes, I understand why I had the view that I have, but I think fundamentally that view was incorrect. I think we should have recognized that he was too risky and it was bad for our movement and for our reputations to associate ourselves with it. Like, I don't think we should try to put our foot down and go like, actually, I was right. No, I think you should look back and go, there was enough smoke there. There was enough of a risk. I think the main problem that we have is a lot of the people that we like and support were supporting him, and they were being attacked for it. And it put a bad taste in my mouth because I knew that their intentions were good. And so that is a social milieu of, hey, I like Majority Report. Hey, I like Kyle and Crystal and these people. Even though they're to my right, I still want to have their backs, and I agree that beating Susan Collins with a progressive pro-Palestinian candidate would be a huge W. But because we wanted that outcome, we looked past too much. To the people that were raising flags and going, hey, you're looking back some really twisted shit. This isn't going to be it. There's going to be more. When it ends up that there is more, I don't think you could be like, well, I was actually right. No, I think you should look and go, no, this was against what my normal instincts and process are. This candidate isn't properly vetted. This candidate, you know, their policies are questionable in some areas. I think that we need to have more DSA candidates. Here's my general feeling. What if instead of talking about Graham Platner, we had talked about Julie Gonzalez? What if instead of Bad Empanada making 80 videos about Graham Platner, he had made 5 videos about Julie Gonzalez, and we had put a bunch more effort at Julie Gonzalez defeating Hickenlooper? What if we had spent money or more effort on the DSA candidates or the socialist candidates that lost close elections? What if we had spent more time and attention propping up and supporting Abdul El-Sayed? That's my regret. My regret is I should have recognized that when there's smoke, there's fire. And it is actually important. I do think that there is a strong racial component to that. This, I think, is a legitimate blind spot. I think you'll find that pretty much almost every single progressive person of color was much more skeptical of Graham Platner than the white people. I think that is actually true. And it's uncomfortable. And I think we should sit with that discomfort and be like, my second thing I would say is my feelings should not be front and center. Me feeling bad or you white people feeling bad doesn't fucking matter. Feel bad and then do something about it. So what's to do something about it? We're going to help Troy Jackson try to replace Graham Platner. And more importantly, we're going to support Cori Bush. We're going to support Cori Bush to knock out a Zionist, to bring back another member of the squad, to elevate a black woman. We're going to support Abdul El-Sayed in Michigan for a candidate who's actually worthy of the movement. We're going to help our people rise up. We're not just going to be like performatively whipping ourselves. Hartzell Gray, who was on my stream. Francesca Hong, who was on my stream. We're going to support people of color who are part of our movement rising up. You know what I mean? Like, so, you know, I think for me, obviously, doesn't look good, doesn't feel good. But I still believe the same thing I believed yesterday, which is we have got to change politics in this country. And some of that involves growing pains, that there's going to be missteps. I didn't come in here. I know what all of our intentions were not. They were good. They were, how do we help support anti-Zionist candidates win? That was our intention. Our intention was always that. Graham Platner was not worthy of that. He was an opportunist. He was a liar. We got burned. It's going to happen again. The question is, how do we react? Do we double and triple down? Do we pretend like nothing was wrong? Do we pretend like we are perfect? Do we never make mistakes? We made a mistake, period. A lot of people I like made a mistake, period. But I'm not going to be a narcissist and pretend like I didn't. And I'm also not going to pretend that making a mistake makes you evil. What makes you evil would be doubling down on the mistake, would be covering it up, which would be trying to, like, if I take a ding for my reputation, it's deserved. I should have been more discriminating. In the future, I'm going to try to do better. No one is infallible. I'm right about a lot, but when I get one wrong, I got it wrong. We do the right thing. We try our best. That's all you can do. And I'm not an abstentionist. I'm leaning in. I want to be as involved in as many races as I can because we need to seize power or we're all going to die. They're trying to make fascist drone robot armies to mow down everybody who doesn't worship at the feet of Peter Thiel. That is not a meme. That is real. You didn't vote for him or have him on the stream. What mistake did you make? I defended Graham Platner on my stream. Like, that's the mistake I made. Now, I gave him critical support. Now I withdraw that critical support. I was contemptuous of the people that were anti-Graham Platner in a way that I shouldn't have been. You know, that was the mistake I made. I think that I was willing to gloss over the problems of his biography because I believe the politics that he was representing is so needed. And the alternative, in my judgment, was worse. Reality is now we need to get rid of that motherfucker immediately and replace him with someone better. And if we end up getting Troy Jackson, somebody that we could all support with much less reservations, that would be a good outcome. So let's fight for that good outcome. I didn't realize the gravity of the SA allegations. well, these are new. These are new. Like, nobody would have supported Graham Platner if this allegation had been there from the beginning. Well, a lot less people. As a black leftist, I was wrong that he would be the candidate, but I do find the insane excitement for Maine to be a good lesson. An actual DSA candidate that is properly vetted could do numbers. I mean, you don't even have to be a veteran. You just have to have the reason why people are blowing up is the policies, not veteran. Veteran status does not matter. It doesn't help you. It is not something that we should be the reason why centrists want to elevate vets is because they're more likely to support the military industrial complex and the wars. That's why centrist devs are pushing vets. I consider veteran status to be neutral. It's not an advantage for a candidate to be a veteran. Now, I know a lot of people hear that and they may want to say that it's actually negative, but unfortunately on Twitch, that'll get you permaban. You can't discriminate against someone based on their veteran status alone. And in politics, speaking bad about veterans gets clipped and then gets spread everywhere to discredit you and get you banned because it's against the law. It honestly doesn't move the needle that much in my own campaign. Of course it didn't. It's not 1999 anymore. It's not 2005 anymore. Veteran status is just not, it's just not an advantage. People don't give a shit about your biography. They want to know what you're going to do to change the country, which is a good thing. I want people to be more about the policies. Like, you know, like I want politics to be about the policies, but we still need to have champions who are worthy of our support. You understand what I'm saying?
There is absolutely.
Okay. I mean, is there anything more to say? Do you guys feel like I need to say more? Like, I feel like we have gone through it as much as I can. It doesn't matter what champion you put in there when the whole system is corrupt at its core. It means nothing. See, this is the type of post that I'll see, and I know that feels like, I feel like this comment that you're making here, it feels like you're saying something, like you feel like you're saying something, but you're actually saying nothing. Like, you're not actually saying anything. And the reason why I'm saying nothing is because what you said there doesn't lead anybody to take any action whatsoever in the real world. It does not change any material condition for a single human being. It doesn't give us any insight. It's what I have called for a long time stupid cynicism, in the sense of you've made an observation that a 5-year-old could make. The system is corrupt, but there's no sophistication, there's no thought behind it, there's no action behind it. It is a baby tier observation. If what you're trying to say is whoever you put into office, it doesn't matter and no policies will be different, then you're just wrong. You're just objectively wrong. There are significant differences in policies between politicians and between coalitions that support those politicians, and those policies have a dramatic impact on people's lives. Joe Biden winning the 2020 election over somebody else led to the genocide in Gaza. Joe Biden was by far and away the most Zionist, even though it's a Zionist party. His position was so extreme pro-Zionist, other Democrats, even other liberal Zionists, would have likely ended the war earlier. If you don't think that, then your understanding of the world lacks all ability to discern reality from your mind palace. So it doesn't matter what champion you put in there. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, you can see the concrete outcomes that, for example, Zohran Mamdani is delivering in New York City right as we speak. If you have a small child in New York City, they're going to get free childcare. And free childcare has double benefit. For the parent, it gives them the ability to get a job. Maybe maybe it gets someone who would be marginally employed into the workforce more. So their family is significantly materially improved by the double benefit of, now that the child is in childcare, a worker could get a job and build up their own material conditions and improve their own lives. So for that family, that free program could be life-changing. And that applies to every child from 6 weeks to 5 years, free childcare until that child is ready for kindergarten. That is life-changing for people. That is thousands of dollars a month. And that's just one policy. That matters. Of course it fucking matters. And so it's just, your life is on the margin. Your life is on the margins of decisions that were made outside of you that has created the conditions where you currently live. And those decisions matter. Of course they fucking do. I've been a full-time caregiver for disabled parents for 20 years. Due to arbitrary rules, I can't be compensated for my time. For a long time, that made me feel valueless, but something that showing a singular policy change could have shaped my life to be completely different Makes me appreciate every electoral win. Communities like yours and Assad's have done wonders for my self-respect, by the way. Thank you. We want to see caregivers and families paid. Those things matter. So again, you're spreading some sort of cynicism that results in what? Would you say this is our Fetterman 2? No. I would say this. Fetterman betrayed us because of the policy change. Platner betrayed us because he lied about who he was, therefore negating his entire reason for being. These are related problems, by the way, but they're different. Both of them can be solved by running DSA cadre candidates. If Fetterman had had a long association, like, you know what I mean? Nothing is a guarantee, but both of them are related but different. They're related but different. Egypt 2, Argentina 0 from well-known Mike Minkus? I was like, who the fuck is Mike Minkus? I wanted to. Bernie Sanders. By the way, my predictions about the World Cup are coming completely true. I said that Argentina was gonna fucking not do it, and then I said Spain was the favorite. I said the U.S. would make it to the round of 16. I mean, yesterday I was trolling a lot, but at the beginning of this year, I made a bunch of predictions. You said U.S. would win. I know. I wanted to troll the Belgians. You said Argentina would lose in the round of 16. I did? Link it to me. I don't even remember what I said. The rig is in. VAR overturned the goal. Oh, no. Why? What was the reason? Foul? Left-wing candidates do really well in the primaries. I don't think they win everywhere, but I think going to have a lot of cool left-wingers. Kash Patel is fired. The U.S. is going to make the quarterfinals in the World Cup. Spain. Oh, no. I was wrong. Okay, I was wrong. The U.S. did not make the quarterfinals. No, I was wrong. I thought, you know, okay, I was wrong. Spain is the winner. Most overrated. Argentina out in round of 16. All right, so we'll see if that happens. Theo predicted that Trump would die in September. I kind of don't agree with this anymore. I kind of think the Dems are going to win everywhere. Which brings us to Harry Enton. Harry Enton was agreeing with me, by the way.
There is absolutely a story, Mr. Berman. You know, we're about halfway through the primary season so far, and this is perhaps the best sign for Democrats, because when people are going out there to vote, they're voting Democrat to a historic degree. Take a look here. Dem share of the primary votes cast. You know, right now we're talking about 57%. My goodness gracious. That is up 10 points from 2022 when Democrats were casting just 47% of the primary ballots. Republicans were casting the majority. And this 57% is actually higher than what Democrats were casting back in 2018 when, of course, they went back to take back the House of Representatives when it's 54%. This is a historically strong position for Democrats. The energy is on the Democratic side of the aisle.
This was a big year for Democrats.
Huge year for Democrats.
And the percentage this year even higher.
Yeah.
Okay, I call this next graph at the Enton special here. What happens when one party is turning up in bigger numbers than the other in the midterms?
You know, there are two Enton specials. One is Popeyes followed by Carvel. The other is this slide. And take a look here. Okay, national primary turnout edge by party. Then went on to win the U.S. House in the midterm. Look at this. Every single cycle since 2006, Dems had the primary edge. They took back the House. 2010, GOP had the primary edge. They took back the House. 2014, GOP had the primary edge. They held on to the House. 2018, Dems had the primary edge in terms of votes cast. They went back to take back the House. And in 2022, the GOP had the edge in primary votes cast, and they went back to take back the House. When your side comes out and votes more in the primary, it forecasts very good fortunes come the fall in midterm elections.
So why are all the pollsters boosting Republican numbers? And like, I actually believe I believe the same thing, which is that, you know, whoever the Democrats pick in Maine is going to win, unless, you know, they're also a rapist.
The more of you turn out, you take back the House or hold on to the House.
All right, and we're seeing some sort of signs of the impact this is already having in some of the key states we're looking at.
You know, if Democrats want to take back the United States Senate, they're going to have to win in states that Donald Trump won in 2024. But they may get a key boost in turnout. So in the 6 key GOP-held Senate seats, we spoke about them last week, Alaska, Iowa, Maine, North Carolina, Ohio, and Texas. Trump's 2024 margin, on average in those states, he won it by 8. But according to the Times, in terms of likely general election voters, his edge is actually only going to be half that. 4 points. So this energy, this turnout energy that we're seeing in the primary will likely, at least is forecasted to, in fact, hold towards the fall and make those red states a little bit more pink than red.
They're starting, Democrats are, further along on the race than they were before in terms of turnout there. All right, Harry, in terms of the House of Representatives, what are the prediction markets saying at this point?
Yeah, so Democrats took a little bit of a hit after those SCOTUS decisions right back in May. Their low point was 73% on May 17th, but look at where we are now. Democrats' chances have, in fact, risen significantly, up much closer, if not past 80% at this point. So what we're seeing is that enthusiasm that the Democrats have look like it's going to hold towards the fall as well.
Harriet, thank you very much.
Thank you, my friend.
A lot of news this morning. We'll be right back.
Gamba on news. Let's go. Why are they treating this like it's a real number? These Kalshi bets mean fucking nothing. I mean, like, do you guys remember the Daria? Does anyone have the Kalshi chart for Daria Lisa? It was fucking garbage. It means fucking nothing. What if Platner decides not to drop out? We'll run a write-in campaign. Unironically, a write-in campaign or an independent campaign. And he's going to drop out. Egypt goal? Egypt goal? Oh my God, I was right. Wait, Messi got denied on a penalty kick? Or did they call that back again too? Oh my God. I fucking called it. I told you this fucking Argentinian team was overrated as hell. Match time and momentum. Oh my God. That's crazy. Gotta be honest, chat. Belt to ass. Some claim I show speed made Messi miss the kick.
Look, Messi, look at me. Messi, look at me. Yes, right here, right here.
I don't think speed has made Messi miss the shot, guys. But maybe, unless. Oh my God. Egypt. Holy shit. Holy shit. 0 saves by the Argentina goalkeeper. The expected goals against against Egypt right now are 1.68. They have, which means damn. Not 1.67? Yeah, 1.68. Holy shit, dude. Okay. Well, shit. What else is there to say about this? What's your opinion on the Alaska race? I mean, whatever.
Emotion and feelings at that moment, and if you can pass the Argentina tomorrow, will you do it again?
Egypt's coach waved the Palestinian flag after the World Cup win against Australia. Speaks about Palestine when asked.
برحب بحضرتك طبعا وبرحب بالشعب التركي. فكل واحد ليه مشاعر وكل واحد اذا وجد فرد في العالم ما حسش بالشعب الفلسطيني فما يبقاش بني ادم، ما يبقاش بني ادم ايا كان بقى، اذا كان الشخص ده عربي او اوروبي او امريكي او اي حاجه. احنا في حاله، احنا دايما حتى الشعوب اللي في اوروبا وفي العالم في امريكا لو في حيوان حد قاسى عليه او اذاه بيطلع حقوق الانسان وحقوق الحيوان وحقوق الدنيا. لكن انت لما كل يوم يطلع بني ادمين كل بالالافات يتقتلوا واطفال وستات، ولما يكون حضرتك احنا قاعدين في تكييف وقاعدين في قصور وقاعدين في شقق وعاملين الاكل قدامنا، واطفال وشعوب قاعده في خيام في الشتاء وفي الصيف والشمس. احنا لما تكون الشمس عندنا الدنيا حر بنبقى عايزين تكييف وعايزين نور، ولما يكون الدنيا شتاء عايزين بيت مقفول ودفايات وغطا. الشعب الفلسطيني قاعد في العراق، يعني اطفال ما بيصعبش عليهم، اطفال اللي احنا بنشوفهم مش لاقيين ياكلوا، اللي هم فيه المرض والوباء اللي ممكن من قله الاكل ومن قله النوم ومن قله العيش. فانا لو ما حسيتش كبني ادم يبقى انا ماليش لازمه ان انا اعيش، او اي بني ادم على وجه الارض ما حسش باللي بيحصل في فلسطين بغض النظر عن هو مسلم مسيحي يهودي، يبقى مش بني ادم، ما ينفعش يعيش. واذا اصرينا ان احنا نغمض عينينا ناخد قرار، واللي في الناس اللي في ايدها القرار تحط نفسيها وتحط ولادها ان هم يقعدوا يوم واحد بس، حتى يقعدوا في الشارع في الشمس وفي المطر وفي الساعه، يقعدوا بس يجربوا هيعيشوا ازاي. يعني احنا لما بيحصل سيول هنا في الجو ولا في بتاع الناس كلها بتتدارى وتجري، لكن السيول بتحصل في غزه وبتحصل في فلسطين والناس مش لاقي حاجه تتدفى بيها ولا حتى المطر ولا لاقي الشمس تروح. فانا بقول عار علينا كلنا، عار على العالم كله مش الوطن العربي بس وافريقيا، لا عار علينا كلنا وعار على اصحاب القرار اللي سايبين بني ادمين زينا زيهم. احنا كلنا زي بعض، لينا عينين ووش وراس وجسم يعني الناس دي عادي جدا. النهارده في 1000 و2000 3 4000 وقعوا اتضرب في صاروخ عادي ماتوا. واحنا هنا الشعوب كلها بما فيهم اوروبا وامريكا بنبص على حاجه ثانيه، محتمل ممكن يكون الناس بيوروا لهم صوره ثانيه خالص بغض النظر عن الاديان. احنا بنتكلم لما بتتعاملوا مع الحيوانات، لما الحيوان يتاذي، لو في فيديو جه مثلا حد اذى واحد حيوان في الشارع كلنا هيخش لازم يتسجل لازم يتحاكم. طب اللي بيقتل الناس.
Okay, so well, I'm definitely. I mean, let's hope that Egypt. Basically, I'm sorry for the audio only people. He was basically talking about the necessity of remembering the Palestinians, treating their condition as important, talking about, you know, if you're hot in the summer or cold in the winter, you had heat and air conditioning, and we treat the deaths of an animal as higher and more important than the deaths of Palestinians. He's fucking based. All right, chat. Let's see how Hutch is handling it. Now, remember, chat, I don't... Listen. Hutch donated $50 to Graham Platner. We should have all known. We should have all known. Mike, can you shut this loser up? Huh? I don't know. That's all right. You don't have to shut up every loser. Let him spam. It's funny. We should have fucking known. As soon as Hutch gave $50 to Graham Platner, we should have fucking known. The kiss of Hutch.
To Hassan's credit, though, he like tepidly endorsed Platner. Like, to my knowledge, I don't think he was ever like fully in the tank. But the problem, like the amount of people in this space that ran the most insane defense for this guy and fucking gaslit the rest of us, they should take a hit in their credibility, in my opinion. They should be.
Did you apologize for endorsing Joe Biden?
No.
No. Okay. So here's what I agree. I agree. You should. No.
That's not the same thing. No. Wait.
I know.
Well,
I want to push Hutch a little bit and say, what do we have time to hold these people accountable right now? Is now the time? Like, these people are dumbass dipshits, and it's just another mark on the board of dumbass did another dumb thing, right? Like,
there's always time. There's always time to hold people accountable,
bro. Joe Biden had an rape allegation that's just as credible as this one. Joe Biden had a rape allegation just as credible as this one. Like, if you want to, and he lost to Donald Trump. He had to drop out of the race because he lost the debate so badly that everybody went into a panic. Of course you gotta fucking apologize for endorsing Joe Biden. Are you insane?
But like, what's going to come out of that? Like, the Kyle Kalinskis of the world are just going to be like, AIPAC did this, or, you know, the establishment is the reason why we're here. Like, these people are brain-broken, man.
Number one, it's good content. Number two, it's generally good.
It's good content.
To like hold people accountable for running insane defense for people. Like, yes,
that was so transparent. Number one, I want to milk this for money. Is that really like that's the guy's whole point? Is that really what you should be doing?
Hey, man,
what are we all doing? Like, I'm sorry, am I the only one that's in this racket? I mean,
that's the thing with these guys. They're all sociopathic grifters and parasites, and because they are, in order for them to sleep at night, they have to say we all are. Like, that's a narcissistic admission, by the way. If you're saying like, oh, I'm grifting off of this stuff and making content and we're all parasites. No, that's just him saying it. I give thousands of dollars to causes and politicians I agree with. I've raised over $100,000 for various politicians this cycle. I'm doing it because I believe in that shit. I don't have to write a check for $1,000. No one makes me do that. I do it because I believe in these people and I'm trying to help them.
If I wanted to just make money, I'd be a right-wing grifter. We still have principles, right? Like, what are we spending our time? We have a zero-sum amount of time every day.
I said there was a number two, and the number two is it's always good to hold people accountable who ran fucking insane defense for this guy. Dude, I don't know. We should not let these people get off the hook, man. They went so hard. It would be one thing if they were like kind of lightly, but they went so fucking hard against anyone who voiced concerns about this guy. They were smearing the people that were voicing their concerns about this guy. They relentlessly gaslit us, and they did it to like the 10th degree. If you go back and watch Kalinsky's videos talking about this, bro, he goes so hard.
You mean on the original New York?
That's the difference between you and these shows. Just today, you shut down somebody trying to do an ad debate while we discussed this topic and said this isn't an appropriate time to show. I mean, that's just basic common sense. Oz, can we deal with the dumbass in chat? What is he saying? That's annoying. And I want you guys to understand that the accusations that are making people change on Graham Platner are different than the accusations that have come out. And I don't think Hutch is the guy to speak.
Jeffrey Epstein, yes or no, Hutch?
I do. Yeah. But if he had a D next to his name and he was running for a Texas Senate
Oh my God.
I would probably vote for him. I'm just saying.
That'd be a tough one.
Wild.
Not kidding.
Wild. You're just gonna let that one
not
go.
a joke. Not a joke.
Wow.
The guy saying it's not a joke and he would vote for Jeffrey Epstein is trying to tell us that we should be held accountable for not being, I guess, omniscient, that there was going to be a credible rape accusation come out against the candidate. Incredible.
Times
on everything, every step of the way, bro. Every step of the way, he totally dismissed any concerns about this guy.
Wait, Hutch is saying shit about me? Oh, okay. Well, it's time to post that video. It's time to post that video again. I will 100% post that video. The sheer volume of receipts is astonishing. It wasn't just that 90% of left media defended Platner. It's that the way they relentlessly gaslit everyone along the way perfectly mirrored MAGA's defense of Trump. No, they didn't. As soon as there was a credible rape accusation that was specific, that had somebody on the record, that had corroboration, we threw him away immediately. MAGA still likes Trump, you fucking moron. As soon as we had the proof, as soon as we had the receipts, we dumped Graham Platner immediately. What are you talking about? That's the exact opposite of MAGA. We bailed immediately. Once it was clear the guy is a predator, and it wasn't just rumors, and it wasn't just Zionist smear campaign, but no, he actually had a legitimate rape accusation, and we dumped him. Dang, he lost Mike from PA, who previously said Mossad was responsible for my first Reddit story. How did you get the Reddit account? Bro, how'd you get the Reddit account? It could be both. You could be both a rapist and you are using big data that's not accessible to regular people. How did you identify the Reddit account? You know, it has never been explained. Has Hutch dropped Destiny? No, he loves Destiny. They all love Destiny. That's funny. That's like legitimately funny. The thing I want to know is who's going to replace him?
This is Democracy Now!
That's the real question. Who is going to replace him? 2-1 Egypt? Oh, fuck. I got to keep that ESPN Gamecast up. Uh-oh. No Argentina comeback. No Argentina comeback. You know they're going to give another penalty. No! No! Gopnik, UU Punk is accusing you of Punk is accusing you of supporting rape culture. Okay, let me see who this person is. Oh, that you can't. No, you're gone. You're gone. You can't come in here with a fake new account. You have to come in with your real account. You don't get to come in with an alt that you created 5 minutes ago. You have to come in with a real account. Come in with your main. What has Kyle Kalinsky said? I want to see what he says. Has he made a Platner post?
All right.
Okay. Right off the bat, Kyle, I love you, bro. Come on, man. Why is Hutch relevant? He's not. He's just funny to laugh at. Come on, man. Just say accused of sexual misconduct. Don't say grape. This is like, come on, man. Come on.
We all got some major breaking news here that dropped earlier today. So Politico is reporting that Graham Platner was accused of sexual assault. But if you actually read the article, the headline says sexual assault. If you actually read the article, it's very clear that the allegation is not sexual assault. It's grape. Okay, there's a few things about this that are extra concerning. The previous allegations were easy to dismiss because it was a literal Heritage Foundation Republican insider who was making the allegations. Also, the allegations were effectively, he's a bad boyfriend. This is not that. This is a much more extreme allegation is point number one. Point number two is she does have some corroborating evidence. And it's also, if we're being serious here, a Democrat who's making the allegation. In fact, she was hesitant to come forward because she says, I agree with Graham's politics. And I was caught between, like, what do I do here? Do I come forward? Do I stay quiet because I agree with his politics? And Graham dropped an emergency video earlier today. Take a look at that.
To directly address the troubling, serious, and false allegations against me. Any accusation of non-consensual behavior is categorically false. Over the last 10 months.
It's just the YouTube algorithm. I think there are some situations where you need to not do the YouTube algorithm shit. You know what I mean? I think there are some situations where you're just like, we're not doing the YouTube algorithm crap. You could say essay, like, come on.
I've been deeply humbled by the faith Mainers have put in me. You have welcomed me into your homes, into your places of work, into your restaurants, into your houses of worship. You have shown that a different kind of politics, one that puts the interests of people over corporation, is not just possible, but is inevitable. This movement we have built, the largest volunteer base in the history of Maine politics, the hundreds of thousands of grassroots donors, and the supporters across the ideological spectrum, we were united in a love of Maine, a belief that our politics must change, and a focus on defeating Susan Collins. So, regardless of the inaccuracy of the reporting, but mindful of the political reality it will inflict, we are taking the time to reflect on the best path forward for the state that I love, the people that I love, the movement I belong to, and the goal of defeating Susan Collins. Those were the goals when we launched this campaign, and they remain my goals today. On June 9th, 154,058 Mainers, the most in primary history, voted to reject a broken politics beholden to Washington and the donor class.
I gotta say that this is just narcissistic. You're giving some sort of pontifical speech about this shit, and it's nothing. And it's not about that, man. The solid things are going to be a bunch of normie dead enders unless he hands off the campaign. There will be normie dead enders. People become parasocial. They will defend anything. People defend destiny. People defend Donald Trump and the Epstein files. Of course, there's going to be people like, if he were to stay in, then yes, that would be really bad. But he can't win. All he could do is do damage.
They voted for hope, for change, to take back our economy.
No one cares about your opinion about politics right now, man. Honestly, you should be looking for a lawyer. Honestly, you should be looking for a criminal defense attorney. And you should shut the fuck up and say you're retiring from public life. That's all everybody wants to hear. The idea of like, oh, I'm going to defend the movement, blah, blah, blah. Leave it to everybody else. You need to go away. Everything you touch is shit now. Go away. There is no grace. There's nothing. You're a fucking rapist. I know it's real. I know it's true. You're a fucking liar. You should be spending the rest of your life trying to atone for your crimes that have been up until this point unpunished. You're exactly the problem with men. So many fucking douchebags like this, man. So many fucking douchebags like this. Fucking gross.
Back our power and to take back our Senate seat. Throughout it all, you never turned your back on me, and I will not turn my back on you now. Every one of you deserves to see that vision come to fruition and see Susan Collins defeated, and we will use every tool at our disposal to do so. As Maine goes, so goes the nation, as always.
So needless to say, very serious allegations, and there's evidence this time as well that there wasn't previously. And I honestly think he's going to drop out. I think he's almost certainly going to drop out. He's going to throw his weight behind whoever takes his place.
What weight? What? Well, there is no weight. He needs to go away. There is no weight. Like, you need to drop any fucking delusion that Graham Platner is anything. He's nothing. He is not who he said he was. That's the answer. And if it's harsh, it's harsh. Because he was already given second chances. He was already given grace. He was already given forgiveness. And he abused that trust. There is no coming back from that. He knew what he did. The moment, like this, we've already had scandals about him being on dating apps months ago. The first thing he should have done is go, these are the people I dated. Go to my campaign. I need you to go and talk to every single one of these women. No, Argentina scored again. No. Okay, this is the day of Mike was wrong. Jesus Christ. Okay. Criminy. Let's get this bad vibes out this week. Jesus. Cursed couple days. Criminy. I told you to stop talking about soccer weeks ago. So true. You should be surprised Argentina's doing well. I mean, coming back from down 2-0 is pretty huge. That's pretty legendary. Mike, I agree, but this is very out of touch. I'm on the ground, and a lot of people do not think it is real because they want Collins to lose so badly, so he does have weight, like it or not. Okay, what I mean by that is he should drop out, and he should go away. That's what it should be. And then whoever comes in should be deported, as long as they're not a mega Zionist.
There's some conversations about who that'll be, which I'll get to in a second. But let me also just say real quick, if you're a Republican, I am not remotely interested in your Platner take, because you have nominated a guy 3 times who is accused of much worse and much more than Graham Platner. I simply don't want to hear it. There's a literal Wikipedia page dedicated to all of the allegations made against Donald J. Trump. There's nearly 30 different sexual assault, sexual harassment, and rape allegations made against Donald J. Trump. Every Republican knows that. No Republican fucking cares. Okay? So I'm just simply not interested in you pretending like you have a fucking conscience now and you're moral now when you're not remotely any of those things. So all of you go to Shut the Fuck Upsville, sincerely from the bottom of my heart. This is an internal issue between liberals and leftists and Democrats. Okay? You can go sit in the fucking corner and be the peanut gallery and wear the fucking dunce hat for all I care. So all you can shut the fuck up. That's point number 1. Point number 2 is, if you are Neera Tanden, shut the fuck up. She's going after Platner now as well. You worked for Bill Clinton. You worked for fucking Bill Clinton, okay? This guy was accused of rape and all sorts of issues way more than Graham has been. Let's be serious about that. I'm not trying to downplay what Graham is being accused of here, but let's be serious. You don't get to pretend like you have a conscience and pretend like you have morality now in this moment. You simply don't, okay? It's convenient when you decide to trot it out. And then finally, I'll point out, listen, man, everybody's now abandoning Graham, and that's going to be effectively the death blow to the campaign. Ro Khanna took back his endorsement. Ruben Gallego took back his endorsement. I'm seeing everybody take back their endorsement. Apparently, Platner's own staffers are now talking about replacing him. And so there is a legal mechanism at this point for him to drop out, for him to be replaced. And right now it's looking like Troy Jackson might take his place. And Troy Jackson is a former candidate for governor in Maine. He's the most progressive of the potential choices. Bernie backed his gubernatorial run. He's from like the same wing of the party. And like I said, I do think ultimately Graham is going to step aside and basically pass the torch to this guy, realizing that this is going to absolutely jeopardize the chance that he's able to defeat Susan Collins. There was a poll that came out, like a week or so ago that had the race basically tied. And there's some polls out today that have Troy Jackson beating Susan Collins. So I don't know. We'll see what happens, but my guess is he's going to drop out. My guess is it's going to be somebody else who's, either DSA or DSA aligned, and this will all be a moot point anyway. But needless to say, it's a horrible.
If Graham Platner gets replaced by someone who's better than him, then that's good. It's a good thing. Like, ultimately, that's what I care about. Like, I want somebody who we can trust to be a voice for the left in the Senate. That's what I want. But Graham Platner has no future. He's fucking done. He lied. He lied to all of us. He dissembled. And honestly, I don't know what else to say. He made a lot of the worst people on the internet correct. Platner has been goated with the sauce, but I've also been in a coma since Sunday. LOL, yeah, no prosecutor is taking this case. Okay, you're just fucking weirdo, dude. Get the fuck out of here. A prosecutor could absolutely take this case. What the fuck are you saying? There's sufficient evidence for a prosecution.
Story. There are horrible facts in there. You can go read the whole thing over at Politico if you want to see it. And that'll do it, man. As many others are saying, I think Hassan came out and said this too. Stick a fork in him. He's done. Final thing is, we'll know the country is in a better place when people react with the same sort of moral outrage and condemnation to arming and funding genocide as they're reacting to this. It honestly drives me crazy that the majority of our elected officials in Washington, D.C., the majority of congresspeople and senators have voted to arm and fund genocide repeatedly, and it barely gets mentioned. Barely gets mentioned. Nobody's demanding somebody immediately drop out, rescinding endorsements, saying they need to be replaced, having hair on fire reactions. It's just standard operating procedure. And that's how you know that our politics are currently in hell. Again, I'm not trying to downplay what happened with Graham here and the allegations. The allegations are serious and there's evidence, and they're certainly way more credible than the previous ones. But I just wish that we can get our politics to a place where you also see this kind of a reaction when it comes to genocide. And I think we all need to ask ourselves why that's not already the case.
Maine Dems are throwing elbows as they jostle to replace Graham Platner. Maine Democrats are already jockeying to replace Senate candidate Graham Platner. Gobs of Democrats have called for Platner to drop out of the race after Politico reported that a woman who dated, they forced her to have sex with him. He denies the sexual assault allegations, blah, blah, blah. One Maine Democrat, former Senate President Troy Jackson, filed paperwork exploring a run to replace him on Tuesday morning after calling for Platner to exit the race on Monday. Jackson is a former Platner ally who successfully ran for governor this year with the support of Bernie Sanders, and many of the party's left flank have rallied behind him. Jackson's longtime allies and opponents quickly pushed out a website and digital ad to draft the progressive with long union ties into the race. He told the Bangor Daily News on Monday he was very, very interested in replacing Platner. I'm the best person to replace him, Jackson said. Nirvash Shah, one of Jackson's former primary foes, said he was evaluating entering the race on a social media post Tuesday. As the Maine Democratic primary party determines the nominating process, one thing is clear: it should be transparent and open. Behind the scenes, Platner and his political operation are working to ensure any potential replacement comes from his progressive, anti-establishment wing of the party. According to two people familiar with conversations who were granted anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly. I think Troy Jackson is the smartest choice because he was a former state leader in the Democratic Party, but he's also progressive. So he could unite the Janet Mills, Platner, the progressive wing. Like that's the best choice. That's the smoothest transition, and it lets us get into going after Susan Collins, which is what this is all supposed to be about. One person familiar with the conversation between Platner's campaign and his progressive allies granted anonymity to discuss private deliberations said Platner will stay in the race if the party tries to anoint another establishment candidate. Person said that another Platner ally, State Rep Valley Geiger, may also be a viable choice to carry the torch. Reached by phone on Tuesday morning, Geiger said, "I'm not prepared to talk right now," and hung up. The sentiment from inside Platner's campaign is he could still win despite many Dems pulling support over the latest scandal. Narrower path, but
what is the crack? The crack is unbelievable right now. That's an Irish word for fun, by the way, because the atmosphere is well and truly building. We're steps from
Oh, sorry about that, chat. I was like, what the fuck is he saying? Okay, I was like, what tab is that? Egypt lost. Feels bad, man. Narrower path, but path? Yes. No, there is no path. You're abso-fucking-lutely cooked. No one will support you. You'll get no fucking money. You'll be buried by $100 million in ads calling you a rapist. You're fucking done. Some of Platner's former supporters have quickly rallied to Jackson. Rep. Ro Khanna threw support behind the former state Senate president on Monday, writing on X that Jackson has spent his life standing up for progressive values and arguing that the movement is about standing up for Medicare for all, opposing foreign wars, and getting money out of politics. Progressive operations affiliated with outside groups have backed Platner have also begun quietly coalescing around Jackson. Popular socialist Twitch streamer Hassan Piker said there's no question that Platner should drop out, adding that he saw a clear replacement that satisfied the needs for credentials and embodies some of the populist policies in Troy Jackson. Maine state law allows the state party to replace Platner if he drops out before Monday, and they must choose the successor by July 27th. But the party's charter doesn't provide specifics on what the process would look like past the requirement that they convene a nomination meeting. Missing from the picture altogether is Janet Mills. He was such a weak candidate that even though Graham Platner dropped out, nobody is like, yeah, Janet Mills. Many Democratic voters don't want to see her pop back into the fray. She represents what the electorate doesn't want. Somebody who's my generation or older who operates in the old way of politics, said Brunswick, Maine resident Peter Simmons, who is a registered Democrat, wants to see Bellows take Platner's place. We need somebody who's going to get it out and give a message that embraces positive change in ways that standard parties don't. What? Why the fuck would you want Bellows? She's literally Janet Mills Jr. We're really bummed out. We are just leery about a new kind of Kamala Harris situation where we don't get to choose whatever Democratic candidate will be on the ticket. We definitely like Troy Jackson as an alternative. I think we'll get to see who steps up to the plate here and shows the qualities that we really need. Assad being used as a source. AOC, can you endorse someone, please? We need your endorsement of good luck. All right. Have you read this on stream yet? Well, chat, God damn it, man. All right, I'll be right back.
With us now, Julie Roginski, Democratic strategist and author of the Salty Politics newsletter on Substack. I also want to bring in MS Now's Kevin Fry. Kevin is joining us from Portland, Maine, and MS Now's senior congressional reporter and host of Way Too Early, Ali Vitali. This is a family program, Julie, so I cannot repeat what you said to me during commercial break, but this is messy.
It is. That's one way to put it. It is quite messy. It's frankly, a problem of the Democratic Party's own making. It's not like the signs weren't there. I implore people to once again believe women when they tell you the first, the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth time. And you won't have to be in this kind of situation. We knew about Graham Platner because other women had told us. And yet there was excuse after excuse after excuse from the highest ranks of the party, from people like Bernie Sanders, from people like Elizabeth Warren and Ro Khanna and others, to say, well, you know what, there's nothing to see here. We're not going to pay attention. We're going to ignore it. Don't ignore women when they come and tell you what is happening, because then you're going to end up with less than a week to go, scrambling to replace somebody on the ballot who's already won his primary.
Let's talk about that timeline, Ali Vitali. If Platner drops out by Monday, the main Democratic Party will get to choose his replacement.
Yeah.
What are you hearing from National Dems about what needs to happen in the next 6 days?
Well, the problem is there's like half a dozen names in the mix. And I say the problem because the word in my text messages with Democratic sources at the national level, Alicia, has been messy. And of course, the more colorful ones that I imagine you guys are using on set. But I think those 2 days on the screen are really important because, of course, you mentioned the July 13th, 5 p.m. deadline to remove his name from the ballot. But then there's an open question about what happens in that intervening period until July 27th. There have been ideas floated, everything from a convention the weekend before that July 27th deadline to a caucus.
I want to make a final statement. Be Big Mike for a second. If you're trying to center yourself, if you're trying to make this about like centering some men or your own ego or whatever over a rape allegation, there's something wrong with you. This isn't a moment for self-promotion or centering yourself. We live in a horribly misogynistic society where a woman was forced to have the impossible dilemma of, should I support my policies and allow my rapist to win? Or should I speak out and share my story, worrying that's going to cause more pain for women elsewhere in the world and in this country? That's the dilemma. That is the crisis that we have. That she was so worried about coming out and speaking out that it came so late. We need to build a society where it's about supporting and protecting the women that are coming forward with these stories, especially those or about people that are trying to take leadership in the country. And it puts a really bad taste in my mouth to make it about creator drama. We were not covering this story up. We didn't know about this. We're not doubling down. This allegation is new. It is credible. It is clear. It's contemporaneously confirmed, and it's not politically motivated, which makes it highly credible. And so even though it is painful, even though it hurts a lot of feelings and it sucks to have been wrong about Graham Platner, we're going to do the right thing and throw him out because he is a liar and a predator and he cannot be trusted. And so obviously we didn't raise money for him. He didn't come on our stream. He's not DSA endorsed. And it's not any kind of condemnation of our movement that Graham Platner tried to lie his way into it. If anything, the fact that we all are unified in our condemnation of him and our desire to get him removed from this position of trusted authority is a sign that we are on the right track. And we need to learn from this. We need to learn more procedures. We need to run people that come out of our movement, preferably from DSA. So that is the obligation. No more of this like Carhartt progressive, cosplay guy who went viral a couple times. We need long-term members of the community, not somebody that pops up out of nowhere to run for high office. So let's all get back on the horse. Let's not be too discouraged, and let's unite behind somebody who can represent the progressive movement in Maine without the baggage. And let's fight back against the Zionists and the abstentionists and the centrists who are desperately trying to keep power. And let's keep our eyes on the ball, which is removing Zionism from control of our fucking government. All right, everybody, that's gonna be it for me today. Thanks so much for hanging out. Appreciate all of you. We're gonna be talking about other stories in the future. Where there's gonna be some coverage of the race to replace Graham Platner. We're gonna have other worthy candidates brought onto the stream. We're gonna keep organizing. We're gonna learn. We're gonna learn from this. But we're not gonna allow the abuse of our trust to make us agoraphobic, to make us scared to dream. There's going to be stumbles. There's going to be reversals. There's going to be embarrassing shit that happens. But we have an obligation to carry through, correct the errors and the mistakes when we make them with humility. And hopefully we could use this as a moment to come together You know, and I want to invite the people that were heavily skeptical of Graham to help be part of the movement to replace him. I want us to have somebody that everybody can get behind. And I want people of color to be prominently part of that movement. I want them to be a part of the movement to replace Graham Platner, because we're not going to win against fascism if we can't work together. All right, everybody, stay safe. Solidarity forever. Socialism will win, but we're not going to win every battle. We're not going to make it without blood, sweat, and tears and mud and filth streaking our face. It's not going to be clean. It's not going to be easy, but we will win. All right, everybody, stay safe. Solidarity forever. I'll see you soon, and peace out.